Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei hate Rias and love Koneko's mother part 2. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the JCT1345 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. Let's start this video. It was a day off from school for local Lord of Domination, and luckily for him his master didn't need to do any shopping this week, so he had the day all to himself. Issei, who was wearing his casual red shirt with a beige jacket over it, found himself walking around the local shopping district, eyes glued to his smartphone when he heard a familiar voice. Issei. This caused Issei to turn around to see a young blonde girl dressed in a nun's robe topped with a white hood running towards him. She quickly stopped before running into the boy. She then clasped her hands up together and looked up at Issei with a smile. It is you. Oh, I knew we would meet again someday. It must be the doing of our Lord. The girl put her hands together and began to say a prayer, which caused Issei's ache violently. I guess so. I'm glad to see you too, Asia-san. Issei said to the girl with a smile, even though his head felt like it was about to split. He was glad to see his old friend, but something about their meeting was bothering him. What are you doing so far from the church? Well, She lowered her head to hide her embarrassed face. Issei could tell the subject was personal to the nun and was prepared to drop it before. Well, occasionally on days when there is no mass I'll come down to town and look for you. Issei took a step back after what she had said. Now he was the one who was embarrassed. The girl's words made him happy, but at the same time he felt bad for not being there when she needed him. I'm sorry that you had to come down looking for me. I should have made more of an effort to come see you more often. I know in order to make it up to you, how about I take you out for lunch? The boy held out his hand to the girl who stood there and stared at him. Her blank stare eventually became a joyous smile as she reached her hand back to the boys. Okay. At a local fast food restaurant with an unlicensed name that allows for public use without the fear of copyright. I'll take a double bacon cheeseburger all the way with a double order of fries and a large shake. Issei ordered a grotesque amount of food without any shame, but his blonde companion didn't feel as comfortable ordering from the huge fast food restaurant menu. She stared up at the illuminated board and was seemingly overwhelmed by the wide variety of options, so Isay decided to speak up and save the day. She'll have the number 1 with a cola. The two sat at a booth table with a window seat, unwrapped their sandwiches, and prepared to eat. Isay lifted up his sandwich and prepared to take a bite when he looked over to his friend, who was again having trouble. She was looking back and forth across the table for what Issei could only assume to be silverware, and Issei decided once again to give her a hand. Asia. Issei said calmly but firmly enough to get her attention. Once she was looking at him, he lifted the burger up to his mouth and slowly took a bite, and after seeing this she followed suit with the most serious face imaginable. Ha 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 ha. The serious face she was making caused Issei to bawl out laughing, which made her pout with embarrassment. So Asia-san, how has your day been so far? Issei asked in an attempt to make small talk. Well, the weather was great out today, so I figured I'd go look for you, and unlike the last 7 times, this time I actually found you, so today became a super amazing day. She was very childlike and enthusiastic in her response, which made Issei smile. He was happy that he could make her day the way he did, but at the same time he was sad that she had to go out looking for him. I have to make it up to her somehow. She deserves it. Issei thought to himself as he watched the girl slowly nibble a French fry. Today is a good day. Way too good of a day to end at lunch, am I right? The blonde girl looked up at him with a raised eyebrow as she chewed her mouthful of food. At the local arcade. Issei made sure the young nun had an amazing time. He wanted to make sure that a smile never left her face. He took her to play all of his favorite games, and the games he knew she would like the best. Dancing games, racing games, musical games, but he made sure to keep her away from fighter games and FPS. The two were getting ready to leave when Issei noticed Asia staring at a claw machine. He walked up to her and noticed that the machine was filled with plushies that resembled a yellow stuffed mouse. So you're a big fan of stuffed animals in Asia? He asked the girl with a smile. Yeah, I guess you could say that. She finally answered after stumbling over her words a bit. Issei stood in front of the machine and slid a coin into the designated slot, and the machine started up. Whenever Drake would give me time off from training back in Kyoto, I would spend the free time in arcades. He said as he skillfully handled the joystick while searching for the right target. After locating the perfect plushie, he tapped the big red on the game panel, and the claw descended. The 3 prongs of the claw encased one of the stuffed mice and slowly lifted it up before dropping it into the basket where one retrieved their prize. Issei reached through the door near the base of the claw machine where he grabbed the plushie. Here you go. Asia quickly pulled the toy into her chest while looking absolutely delighted. Thank you so much, Issei. Today was so much fun, and now every time I look at this cutie, I'll think of you. Her words put a smile on the young devil's face, and he knew his job was all but done. At a fountain in a nearby park, Issei looked over to the blonde who was sipping on a can of soda. Damn, she really is adorable. My only question is, why would a girl like her come down looking for a guy like me? His eyes that were still focused on the nun quickly took on a more depressed expression. Issei, why do you look so sad? Did I do something wrong? Concern filled Asia's voice, which shocked Issei out of his own thoughts. And no, it's nothing you did, I had a great time with you today. He said with a wave, trying to dismiss her concern. I was just hoping you were having just as much fun as I am. He said with a bright smile as he rubbed the back of his face, which caused the girl's face to light up a bright red, but Issei couldn't tell that his eyes were closed. Why yeah, I had a great time today. It's so much fun getting to spend time with you. She said, lowering her head so that her hood covered her blush. But I don't deserve it. She said, very monotone as she lifted her head, but still refused to make eye contact with the now confused Issei before elaborating. Because of my power, the ability to heal. I was cast out of the church and sent here. I missed using its power and did something I shouldn't have, which cost me my what I once thought was a gift from God turned out to be a curse. My very existence offends God. Issei stared at the girl, wide-eyed at a loss for words. Oh, I don't know why I'm bothering you with my problems. Please don't worry about me, it won't be a problem much longer anyways. Asia doesn't say things like that. Issei yelled at her as his face let the girl know he was angry with what she said. He summoned the crimson gauntlet to his left hand and held it up to show the nun. We're the same. If you have a problem, then you need to tell me about it. I promise you I will help you no matter what. Whenever you need me, I'll be here for you, I swear. This brought the red blush back to the blonde's face, but it wouldn't last long. Geez, Issei-kun. That's cheating, you know. The untraceable voice was no mystery to Issei. He knew that voice better than almost anyone, and it sent chills down his spine. Black feathers drifted in the breeze as Rainer landed on the ground between the two. Alright, Asia tells Issei goodbye, time to go. Today's the day. Wait, Rainer-sama, how do you know Issei? Asia asked, confused, while Issei remained petrified with fear or anger, but probably both. Oh, he didn't tell you about our romantic date as we strolled around town all night, and he didn't mention our passionate kiss under the moonlight. Issei, how could you? Did it mean nothing to you? Rainer loved the idea of messing with poor Asia's heart, and it worked perfectly as the poor girl was almost brought to tears. Oh, poor Asia, you didn't really think you had a chance with the mighty Securite, did you? I hear he's running around with Rias Gremory, the beautiful devil princess. I guess I shouldn't be surprised that Issei here is a devil himself. Issei. Why you? Issei knew what was coming. There was no way Asian women of the church would ever associate with a devil like me. I guess it was bound to happen eventually. I couldn't keep up this charade forever, but right now her safety is all that matters. You kissed Rainer-sama. Asia screamed what was on her mind as she hurled her soda can at Issei, hitting him in the head. Wait, what? You're not mad about me being a devil? Issei asked, confused yet relieved that she was focusing on something more trivial. No, of course not. I could never judge someone for what they are, especially after how nice you were to me. I can however judge you for being a stupid devil playboy. Asia was still obviously furious at Issei for daring to smooch another girl. And who's this Ria's girl? While Issei desperately tried to explain himself and Asia refused to listen to his excuses, Rainer was slowly getting more annoyed listening to the lovers' quarrel. Alright Asia, time to go. The angel quickly put her hand on the blonde's shoulder. No way in hell am I letting you take Asia with you. Boost. Issei declared, re-summoning his gauntlet and taking a battle stance. My. Issei-kun, you really need to watch your temper, or else someone might get hurt. Rainer said slyly while holding a red spear of light near Asia's torso. Issei immediately dropped his stance, not wanting any harm to come to his friend. He was condemned to watch helplessly as his friend was whisked away by the person he considered to be his archenemy. Ha 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 ha. The black-winged angel cackled as she flew away with her prize. Orc. Issei, you need to wait a second, you can't just storm in and take on an army of fallen angels. You need to think of a plan. Rias attempted to reason with her pawn, who was pacing back and forth across the clubroom floor. His face looked both deeply concerned and completely furious. We don't have time for that. Issei yelled at his master, whom he was trying to get some help from. If you can't help me, then I'll save her myself. Issei walked away from Rias before summoning his gauntlet. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. His blood-red armor coats his body and his draconic wings erupt from his back. Issei, you can't go off on your own. You need to make a plan. Rias continued to plead with her pawn, but Issei was at his last nerve and the boy finally snapped. That. Issei yelled as he flashed his furious green eyes at his master, causing her to back off. Then with a powerful flap of his wings, he erupted through the roof of the club and into the dusk sky. The old church 30 seconds later. The blonde girl in a maid's dress with black wings scoured the night sky in search of enemies before locating Issei, who was still coated in his armor, hurtling towards her at amazing speeds. Hahaha. Looks like Rainer was right, here comes the Red Dragon Emperor. The blonde girl summoned her red light spear. Sorry lover boy, but I can't let you paw. Before the fallen angel could finish her threat, Issei rushed up to the girl while the two of them were in midair and delivered a punch to her stomach that sent both of them crashing into the earth, creating a crater. After the dust settled, Issei emerged from the crater, but the fallen angel did not. Issei slowly and silently walked away from the crater and towards the door to the church. The doors of the church flew open and dust filled the threshold. Issei took a battle stance as he expected to be greeted by hordes of goons, but instead was met with something 1,000 times more horrifying. A ominous green light was coming from a strange corridor at the back of the church, and Issei could hear the screams of his dear friend. Jet. Issei raced down the corridor as fast as he could. He entered a room filled with masked exorcists and Asia chained to a growing green cross. He watched in horror as Asia's rings flew from her chest, clouded by a green light, as she screamed out in pain. Rainer laughed maniacally as she claimed her prize. Issei's flashback. The young Issei sat on a bench in a garden at his grandparents' Japanese-style mansion a few weeks after the death of his parents. The boy stared at his draconic gauntlet as he asked his mysterious new partner questions. So Drake, we're gonna be together from now on, right, forever? The boy asked his dragon as the wind blew through the garden, stirring up the leaves in the background. Correct partner, I will be in your care until the day you die. However, the sacred gear can be stolen from you by the means of incredibly strong magic, but if that were to happen you would die. You must promise to be wary of mages as they can be immensely dangerous to sacred gear wielders like yourself. The dragon replied. Don't worry Drake, I'm never gonna let anyone take you away. From now on we're gonna be best friends. After saying this, Issei smiled brightly at his new friend living in his hand. End of flashback. Asia's lifeless body dropped to the ground and Rainer turned her attention to Issei. The fallen angel began spewing her monologue but Issei's mind was preoccupied and he couldn't make out what she was saying. I was too late again. Just like with mom and dad, too late, too weak, I let all of them down. Boost. 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 Asia didn't deserve this. All she wanted was for people to like her and to have someone to talk to. She just wanted a normal life. That's not too much to ask. Her power wasn't violent or dangerous, it was good like her. That greedy bitch Rainer, she's gonna pay. Now behold the power of a supreme fallen angel. Rainer finished her monologue and looked down to see Issei's reaction. His face was covered by his helmet, so she couldn't see the rage billowing inside him, but she could see that the eyes on the balance breaker that had previously been green were now a violent red, which sent a chill up her spine. RRRR. Issei let out a piercing scream as red aura erupted from his body, knocking away exorcists and causing Rainer to brace herself. Welsh dragon dominating fury. The boosted gear announced as the aura condensed around Issei, forming a veil of pure energy that coated his body. You call yourself a supreme fallen angel? A mixture of Drake and Issei's voices came out of the armor. Then I must be blind cause all I see is a dead bitch. Rainer's knees were practically shaking in fear. Why you fool, there is no way you can defeat me. Get 'em boys. She started off weak, but quickly regained herself before directing her henchmen. With pleasure, ha 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 ha. An exorcist with blonde hair and an insane look on his face charged Issei before. Wham. A powerful punch from the now glowing Issei sent the man through a few walls, and he did not come back out. Get out. Issei growled a warning at the remaining exorcists, and after hesitating slightly they decided to obey the dragon, leaving just Rainer and Issei. Issei had vanished from Rainer's sight before reappearing right in front of her, delivering a powerful uppercut that sent her flying into the upper levels of the church. After recovering from being flung through 3 feet of concrete, Rainer stood up and desperately spread her wings in an attempt to fly away. Issei, however, wasn't about to let her retreat as he once again demonstrated the speed of his dominating rage as he closed the distance between the two and grabbed both of Rainer's wings, one in each claw, and the energy emitting from his body began to burn her wings, but she wouldn't have to worry about this pain for long. The violent rip could be heard throughout the church, followed by Rainer's violent screaming. Such disgusting black wings. Issei ignited the energy in his palms, which caused the crow-like wings to burst into flames before Issei cast them to the side. You look 100 times less utterly repulsive without them. The former proud fallen angel was left sobbing in the fetal position on the floor of the church as she feared for her life. Please, please, I'm sorry, I'll do anything, whatever you want. She attempted to beg between sobs as Issei slowly walked towards her. So the wingless angel wishes to bargain with me. Unfortunately for her, she has nothing I want, but perhaps she can do me a favor. Issei said as he stared down at Rainer in her now pathetic state. What? What do you want? She asked, still deathly afraid of the monster that stood in front of her. Issei kneeled down on the left side of Rainer, making it easier for him to whisper into her ear. Would you please die for me? At this point the energy around Issei's right arm had sharpened into a spike, and he stabbed the girl directly through the heart as the energy of the spike cauterized the wound, leaving no blood, but still killing her just as instantly. Outside the church, Rias and her peerage, who had arrived a few minutes earlier, had just recently finished disposing of the fleeing exorcists and any remaining fallen angels. Now that the immense power that was located inside the church had finally dissipated, the orc was prepared to enter the holy building and reclaim their comrade. Before they could, however, the church door swung open, revealing Issei, who was no longer in balance, carrying the lifeless body of his fallen friend as tears streamed down his face. The boy laid Asia's corpse down in a nearby meadow and continued to sob over her as his master rushed over to comfort him in his time of loss. Oh Rias, I'm such a failure. I was too late. I let her down, I let some I cared about down again. It's not fair, she had so much to offer the world, her healing gift was incredible, but now the world will never get to experience it and it's all my fault. Rias patted the boy's head as he sobbed into her arms. Please don't cry Issei, the world is not done, your friend, quite yet. Rias said as she pulled a white bishop piece out of her pocket. Issei's eyes opened wide as he knew that there was no run-of-the-mill chess piece. The bishop? You mean you're going to save her and make her one of us? Issei asked with a small bit of hope in his voice. Yes Issei. The bishop usually plays the support role in a devil peerage, and Asia's twilight healing would be perfect for this. Now if you could please give me her sacred gear, I'll begin the ritual. Issei quickly handed Rias the twin rings and stood back to watch his king work her magic. Rias completed the spell and twilight healing successfully reattached itself to the girl, and after an agonizing few seconds for Issei, the young girl's eyes blinked open and she quickly sat up. Asia, you're alive. Issei shouted with relief as he quickly embraced the girl as tightly as possible. I'm alive. Asia said as she blinked her eyes in confusion. Issei, what's going on? She asked the only person she knew for information, but unfortunately for her at this point, Issei had finally collapsed from both mental and physical exhaustion and was now fast asleep. Rias looked on with pride knowing how happy she had made her beloved servant, but this would be shattered when Akeno nudged her and whispered. Who would have guessed he's into blondes? Chapter 7. Issei was currently face to face with a gigantic red dragon cloaked in fire, as the two of them simultaneously floated in a dimension that seemed totally empty. Most teenage boys would be frightened half to death at the sight of such a monstrous beast, but Issei just looked a bit pissed off. Alright, you got some explaining to do. Issei stared down the massive dragon while crossing his arms and demanding answers. That power I used against Rainer. It was so intense. I'm not gonna act like the bitch didn't deserve what she got, but I tortured her. I ripped her apart mentally and physically. Revenge is one thing, but I was cruel. Issei's frustrated persona faded and his face was filled with remorse and fear. The blame for your actions tonight can't be solely placed on you. I am the Welsh dragon of myth, and my battle with the vanishing dragon was so fierce and violent that all the warring factions from the depths of hell to paradise itself had to intervene to end the bloodshed, but I've told you this before. You also know how the biblical gods sealed me away in your gauntlet to keep me from endangering the world with another titanic battle. Naturally, I was rather upset with my freedom being stolen from me like that. Actually, it's more accurate to say that incident made me so furious that my anger exists on a spiritual plane. Drake's elaborate explanation was starting to drag on a bit, so Issei decided he would help focus him. The point? Issei snapped the dragon out of it and put an end to his ramble. Right. Drake refocused himself, then cleared his throat. Ahem. Anyways, when your friend was murdered before your eyes, your anger reached the same intensity as my own, and our very souls began to resonate, which caused them to fuse. Even though I never imagined an ordinary human to awaken my power, I was still pleasantly surprised when fate chose you as my host, and the main one was how compatible we are spiritually. Drake's reasoning caused Issei to raise an eyebrow, so Drake decided to elaborate. I like to think of each individual soul as a puzzle piece, and our souls happen to fit together nicely. The fusion of our souls powered by our mutual anger caused the dominating fury power to awaken. It was a bit strange, but Issei was satisfied by that explanation and began to relax slightly. I wouldn't relax just yet, partner. Drake warned the boy. I'm not quite finished. You see, I wouldn't rely on this ability coming into play again. The only reason you achieved the form is because your anger was at the perfect frequency and you were unbelievably focused on getting revenge. If your mind wavered slightly, then even if you had reached the right frequency, Juggernaut Drive would have activated, and at your current it would have killed you, or at least drastically shortened. Emotions are your greatest strength, but at the same time they are your most dangerous weakness. Drake's warning was nothing new to Issei, but he reflected on his actions just the same. Yeah, I know. Keep calm if I can. I can only imagine how devastated Rias, Akeno, Kiba, and Asia would be if I was to die for such a selfish reason. Issei looked at his left fist while deep in thought. One more thing, partner. Issei looked up from his fist to let his partner know he had his attention. Ahem, well. The thing is that when my soul was inhabiting your body, the power was so immense that the boosted gear caused your body to mutate and become a bit more draconic. Drake explained rather sheepishly. Wait, what? What does that mean? Issei yelled, his voice filled with confusion and concern. Yawn. Well, look at the time, you gotta wake up or you'll be late to school. Plus you have company, see you later. Drake trailed off as he disappeared from the void-like dimension. Wait, we're not done here, Drake. Issei announced, sounding extremely annoyed. Issei received no response as a bright light flashed around, and the next thing he knew Issei was laying sprawled out across his bed in his own room. Damn dragon, and when did he start talking like a regular person? When I first met him he was all cryptic and timeless. More draconic, huh? Well, if I remember correctly, when I gave up my arm to Drake I became part dragon, so maybe it won't be that big a deal. Issei mulled over what the heavenly dragon had told him while sitting upright in his bed. The boy decided to take a shower as he was still grimy from his fight from last night, but as the boy passed by the mirror something caught his attention. He immediately rushed to check his reflection to confirm his suspicions. His reflection revealed that his chocolate brown iris had been replaced with a very dark emerald green. Green eyes. Well, I mean, they make me look kinda mysterious, so that's cool, but everyone at school is gonna think I'm wearing contacts or something. Issei thought about evaluating his new appearance. Crap. He said aloud with a sigh, but opening his mouth revealed another change. His incisors were now almost a centimeter longer and rather sharp. Damn it, Issei yelled directly at his hand, obviously blaming the dragon for his new appearance, but decided to brush it off knowing that there was likely nothing to be done about it and decided to take his shower. After thoroughly cleaning himself, Issei returned to his room to dress himself. He had just finished wanting his slacks when he heard a knock before it slowly began to open. Issei, it's time to get. I already started breakfast. Asia said in her standard sweet voice as she entered the room. Rias said that you had to make sure to show me around today because it's my first. Asia stopped mid-sentence as her eyes fell on Issei. He had yet to put his shirt on, and the male upper body was on full display for the pure former nun. His body was perfectly sculpted from his years of intense training. From his near-perfect six-pack and pectorals to his well-defined biceps, if the devil thing didn't work out, he could most definitely pass as a men's health model. Kia. Asia shrieked after seeing the boy's body, her face now a bright red. She turned around and slammed the door. Issei, please put some clothes on. I'm going to go to work for breakfast. The girl said quickly from behind the door before nearly sprinting down the hall. Issei stood now alone in his room, still without a shirt and utterly confused about what had just happened. When did Asia get here? Was all he said. After fully dressing himself, Issei made his way towards his kitchen to get some answers from Asia, but when he opened the door, he was blindsided by the delicious smell of cooking eggs. Oh wow, Asia. This smells incredible. Issei complimented the girl as he approached her from behind, looking over her shoulder to observe her technique. Wow. Asia was caught off guard by Issei, which caused her to jump. Oh, Issei. Why, you really think so? I did a lot of cooking with the other sisters back in the Vatican. Asia humbled herself as she attempted to flip an omelette with a spatula. This got Issei's attention, so he went in for a closer look, which caused his chest to press up against Asia's back. Unknown to Issei, his friend's face was now a bright red, but he was more concerned with her cooking. Hey Asia. Did you know? Issei spoke directly into Asia's ear, causing her to shiver a bit before wrapping his right hand around hers, which was holding the frying pan in place. If you flick your wrist like so. He delicately and quickly flicked both of their wrists, causing the omelette to fly up a few centimeters in the air before landing perfectly folded in the pan. You can make a perfect omelette without worrying about using a spatula. Issei said with a certain cold confidence that made him sound almost professional. The two of them sat down to eat together. Asia slowly and politely ate her breakfast, while her draconic friend viciously scarfed down everything on his plate before realizing something he had forgotten. Oh yeah. Asia, I don't mean to be rude, but what exactly are you doing in my house? Issei asked, trying to figure out why it took him so long to ask. Oh yeah, I forgot you were unconscious last night. Asia sat upright at the table with a hand on her chin as she recalled the previous night. Well anyway, Rias-sama said that since you brought me into this world I was your responsibility and you had to take care of me. Then she walked out of here in a huff and seemed to be in a pretty bad mood. Anyway, she said I was to live with you, so I slept over there last night. She looked over at the couch in the living room, which made Issei feel terrible for not being awake to tell her about the guest bedroom. I must say it was one of the best night's sleep I've had in years. Issei looked over at the couch and shook his head. That won't do. Issei said, looking back at Asia. I'm perfectly happy letting you live here, but I won't let you sleep on the couch. You can stay in the bedroom across from mine, and after school I'll take you shopping so you can decorate it yourself, and you're probably gonna need some new clothes, right? Issei whipped out his smartphone and pointed it at Asia before a bright flash emanated from the top of it. Issei began clicking away at the devices as Asia stared at it in wonder. Issei then placed the phone next to his ear and Asia could hear a faint ringing. Obachan grandmother, that girl whose picture I sent you, her name is Asia Argento. She's an Italian immigrant who lost her family, so I told her she could live with me. Issei paused and let his grandmother reply before continuing. Yeah, I think so too. Anyway, I was wondering if I could get a little extra cash to help furnish her room and get her something to wear. Another pause that gave Issei a big smile. Oh, thanks Oba-chan, that should be more than enough. Issei's grandmother had one last thing to say over the phone that caused Issei to blush slightly, then immediately hang up. He calmed himself a bit before returning his attention to Asia. Ahem, anyway, after school we'll head to the mall and… Issei was interrupted by a ding-dong. Issei opened the door to reveal his master with a less than pleasant look on her face. Alright you two, let's get going. Now. The king said with a glare. On the way to school. Issei was walking a few feet behind the two ladies while he took the time to appreciate the early morning sky. For a majority of the walk the three seemed to be trapped in an awkward silence as nobody wanted to be the one to push Rias over the edge. It would be a lie to say Issei wasn't worried about his master, but he decided he would just brush it off as a girl thing. Rias stopped seemingly out of nowhere, getting the attention of both Issei and Asia. Pardon me Asia, I was just going to ask how spending the night with your boyfriend was for the first time. Rias said while her smile and her tone told two different stories. BBB boyfriend. Asia screamed, her face looking almost redder than Ria's hair. Issei, doing his best to remain calm and emotionless, simply raised an eyebrow at her question. As Asia tried to explain how Rias had been mistaken, Issei simply continued to walk forward, now with his head down, hiding his eyes. I happened to have brutally extinguished the life of a fully sentient being with thoughts and fears around 12 hours ago, and you seem to want to play Korean drama. PFFT. Issei scoffs at his master before summoning his gauntlet and boosting. Now that his body had a bit more power, he proceeded to jump on top of one of the houses near them and continued to casually jump from roof to roof as if he were taking a stroll, making sure to only jump on houses that didn't have people around. Once Issei had cleared a bit of distance between himself and the two girls, he began to contemplate his actions. I know that seemed harsh, but I can't get too riled up or everyone is gonna die. Until I can get this thing figured out, it's better to be cold than risk it. At school. Never thought I'd be excited for school, but I'm just relieved to be in a place I can just relax. Issei thought to himself before resting his face on his hand and shifting his gaze to the glass window on his right. I mean, how stressed could a person possibly get at school? The morning bells rang, and Issei's homeroom teacher stood at the front of the classroom and attempted to get the students' attention. Ahem. Listen up class. We have a new student joining us today, and she's foreign. The male teacher said sternly. So Rias made it so that Asia would join my class. Can't say that surprises me, she did say Asia would be my responsibility. Issei thought to himself, showing very little outward emotion. The teacher continued. Now please welcome our new student. After her introduction, Asia strolled in through the classroom, immediately getting the attention of the entire class. Whoa, she's beautiful. One boy announced to the class. Her hair is so yellow and shiny. A girl commented. New girl, do you have a boyfriend? A boy asked. That's good, the class seems to like her. She's gonna do fine here. Issei assured himself as he leaned back in his chair with a smile before leaning back in his chair, before drifting off into his own subconscious. The comments from her new classmates made Asia a bit flustered, but when she finally calmed down, she proceeded to introduce herself. Hello everyone, it's so nice meeting you. My name is Asia Argento. I come from Italy and I'm brand new to the area. I didn't know anyone when I came here until I met Issei-kun. After Asia said this, dozens of angry glares from jealous boys were locked on Issei, but he was too preoccupied to notice. So now I live in his house with him, and I hope you can all treat me as kindly as he has. After this, both boys and girls in the class had shifted their attention to Issei, who was still lost in his own thoughts. Hi do. The whole class echoed in a disgruntled tone, bringing Issei back to reality and sending him and his chair tumbling backwards. After recovering from his fall, Issei looked up directly above him, noticing the shadows of angry classmates beaming down on him. Oh. Maybe this day will be a little more stressful than I thought. In the Kuo shopping district. After a seemingly near endless day at school, Issei and Asia sat patiently at a park bench in front of a parking garage. This was supposed to be a quick trip. We would get Asia furniture and a few new outfits and some furniture, but apparently after I left this morning, Asia spilled the beans to Rias, and she insisted on coming along. Issei was slouched over before sitting up rather suddenly as something caught his eyes. Eyes. Rias stood a few meters away in a red and white striped top, white short shorts, and a black belt. She began to wave to the boy and make a bit of a scene before she decided to quickly jog towards the two. Issei's face began to turn a bit pink, partially because he was called his old nickname that only Rias knew about in Kuo, but also because of how cute he thought his master looked in her street clothes. Issei and Asia simultaneously stood to greet the retreat before beginning their shopping trip. After no more 2 hours of furniture shopping, the two stopped for refreshments at a coffee shop. They were sipping their drinks when Issei decided to reflect on their progress. Wow, this has been amazingly fast. I think we got some pretty great things for your room. I went ahead and had the sheets, blankets, and pillows for your bed shipped home immediately, so looks like you'll get to sleep with them tonight. I think we can spend around 3 more hours shopping for clothes. Rias perked up at the idea of clothes shopping, but Asia just looked down at her drink with a worried expression. Asia, what's wrong? Do you not like the furniture for your room? If so, I still have the receipts so we can exchange them for something else. Issei asked the blonde, sounding a bit concerned that he had let her down. No, Issei. You did an incredible job. I love all the amazing things you got for me, but I'm just worried that I don't deserve them. Asia said, still looking down, her bangs covering her face a bit. Issei and Rias exchanged concerned looks before refocusing their attention on Asia. It's just that Issei-kun had to do a terrible thing because of me, and it made him sad, so sad that he got angry with Rias-sama this morning and ran away. You're wrong. Issei interrupts her and grabs a hold of her shoulders. Asia is caught off guard by Issei's actions. None of that was your fault. Do you understand me, none? Stop carrying a burden that isn't yours. Stop taking a blame that isn't yours. If anyone is to blame, it's me. I didn't save you in time and that's why we're here. No, but if I never met you I wouldn't be here. Issei-sen saved me. Issei-sen did something bad to help me and I made Rias waste. Asia argued back, almost yelling at the boy. Don't ever call yourself a waste. I won't hear it. Like Asia said, I killed Rainer for you, so if you're a waste then so am I. Issei said sternly with serious eyes. But Issei-san is not. Asia whimpered. Then neither are you. If it's your fault then it's mine too, if you're a waste then so am I. And if you can't accept it then you have to find a way to prove to me and Rias we were right about you. Issei looked down at his closed fist. Take it from me. There is no worse feeling than letting someone down and never being able to make up for it. If you feel like you're worthless every day you have the chance to prove me right and prove yourself wrong. Issei's words caused Asia to look up at him with shining eyes and a smile began to form. Issei's 100% right. Rias said with a closed-eyed nod. I would never waste a piece. I believe in both of you, but maybe this isn't a conversation we need to have in public. Rias said with a slight grin and a single eye open, causing both of her servants to look around and realize they were in a crowded but now silent coffee shop, embarrassing the both of them. The group left the coffee shop and had been shopping for a good 20 minutes when they came across a brand name store that Rias had been immensely excited to visit. The three entered the store and Rias seemed to instantly transport to the clearance section in search of the perfect deal. Oh, Issei-kun. A sales lady approached a boy and his awkward blonde friend who felt far outside her comfort zone. What's up, Kiyomi? Issei replied, walking up to the girl again. Your girlfriend is on another shopping rampage, I see. Kiyomi said, pointing her thumb backwards at Rias, who was taking what appeared to be 6 different outfits into the changing room. Ha! Issei sighed then facepalmed. I've counted so I know this is the 12th time I've told you she isn't my girlfriend. That's good or else I'd call you a playboy, Kiyomi said, pointing at Asia. Kiyomi is in Asia. Another friend of mine. Issei emphasized friend as he put Asia front and center. Issei, how do you know this girl? Asia said, confused. Rias used to have me accompany her on her shopping trips and being that this is her favorite store, we'd end up here frequently. Issei explained. By accompany he meant Rias had him carry her bags and compliment her. Anyway, Kiyomi, I need you to give Asia here the rundown. Issei said before turning to his friend. Nobody knows fashion better than Kiyomi. She'll set you up well. This'll be fun. Anything will look good on this cutie and knowing Issei-kun money's no issue. Kiyomi grabbed Asia by the arm before running off to the back of the store. Good luck. Issei told both his friends before pulling his phone out to distract himself and waste time. He was almost relaxed when his master called out to him from the changing room. Ice. Issei rushed over to the changing rooms to find out what the problem was. Rias, I'm here. What's wrong? Issei said quietly, trying not to make more of a scene. Rias didn't respond, instead a hand reached out from her room grabbing Issei by the shirt pulling him in with her. Rias was wearing black lace lingerie, but her bra wasn't fully on, so she was holding up with her left arm, attempting to conceal her massive chest. Issei's face looked like a tomato that was getting ready to burst. "It's a tie-up," Rias said, rather embarrassed. "I need you to tie it for me," Rias said quickly as she turned around showing off her bare back and the two black bra straps. Issei with his face still blazing red slowly reached for the straps, but before he could focus enough on the task at hand, he realized that Rias was wearing a thong that left very little to the imagination. You could almost see steam emitting from Issei's face. Damn. What the hell is she thinking? I mean, pulling something like this in front of a teenage boy. I might not act like it, but I still have desires and I can barely contain myself. Issei thought to himself, trying to focus on something else than the curvaceous body in front of him. Time seemed to slow as lifted both the straps, but he swiftly maneuvered his fingers around and quickly tied a perfect knot. "Done," Issei said, wiping his brow. Rias looked down at her cleavage, then into the mirror, posing a bit as she checked herself out. She turned back to Issei with a smile. "Thanks so much, Ice. Now get out." She pushed the confused boy outside the curtain. "Stay right there. I want to show you my outfit when I'm done." Issei tried to shake off what had just happened, and by the time he calmed down, the curtain door of the changing room flew open. Issei was confident that after what had just happened he would be able to handle whatever she decided to wear. It was almost funny how wrong he was. Rias came out wearing a short white dress that showed off her curves amazingly, a black overcoat, and 4-inch stilettos. It was wide and sophisticated, which is exactly how Issei would choose to describe the girl modeling. Rias ran her fingers through her long red hair before giving the boy a confident smile, which was completely warranted. She looked good, damn good, and it was written all over Issei's face. "Wow, I've never seen so much drool before. I guess you like it," Rias said with a giggle. Issei wiped his face, but he then realized he was being messed with. "Haha. I guess there's no hiding it, but I do like it a lot. You look incredible." Issei was completely honest, and Rias knew this, which caused her to blush. Thank you, Issei," Rias said, looking down. "Hey, there's something important I have to do." "Yeah?" Rias did pretty well. Kiyomi interrupted. "But wait till you see what we came up with." Asia. On cue, Asia walked out from behind a rack of clothing. The girl was sporting a beautiful white frilly sundress with a yellow straw hat and flat brown sandals open from the front but closed in the back with straps on top. It was cute and fun, but at the same time almost angelic. Is was left speechless by how perfectly it fit her. "Well, Issei. It's been a good 10 seconds of you staring," Kiyomi said, looking at her watch. "So what do you think?" Issei gulped down the saliva in his mouth before speaking. "I'll take it." Issei's reaction caused Rias to put a bit. She agreed that the outfit was perfect for Asia, but that didn't mean it looked better than the one she was wearing. Saying she was jealous would be an understatement. Well, if you think she looks that good, then I guess you don't need me around," Rias said and began to storm off towards the store's exit. Issei attempted to get her to calm down, but it backfired. "Also, you're paying for this outfit," Rias said, slamming the door to the store. Issei turned to Kiyomi to get her opinion on the matter, but she was busy typing away on a calculator. "So the two outfits together cost around 80,000 yen," she said with a smile. "Plus tax." Back at Issei's house. The shopping trip didn't last much longer after Rias had left, but Asia did come home with 7 brand new outfits. Once the two returned home, Issei tucked the girl into her new sheets and made sure to tell her that if there was ever a fire, she needed to yell extremely loud before wishing her a good night and the best of dreams. "You know, Drake, it's kinda nice having someone else in the house," Issei said to himself as he laid alone in his bed wearing nothing but boxers. "Yeah, I bet. This is great progress. There was once a time I was convinced you'd live alone for your entire life." Drake's response was met with an angry glare from Issei. Issei was about to drift away into sleep when a glowing red circle with cryptic lettering magically appeared on his bedroom floor. Rias, who was wearing nothing but white underwear, jumped out of the circle and directly onto Issei so that she was straddling him. Issei was confused, which means trouble was on its way. "Ice, I need you to take my virginity," Rias told him as she unbuckled her bra, letting her chest spill out. "I meant to tell you earlier, but I never got the chance." Rias didn't want to wait for an answer, fearing rejection, so she went in for a kiss, hoping to entice him with passion, but he would never get the chance. Her VV virginity, but that means with me. But why would she want me? Issei thought to himself as he blushed profusely. Could it be that she LO? Most people would consider love a good emotion, but when it's the uncertainty of a first love, and with the way the boosted gear has been acting recently, such a thing is dangerous. Issei's fears were realized when his gauntlet, which seemed to summon itself. The normally green gem was now bright and dangerous red. Rias, watch out. Issei pushed his master off the bed and onto the floor. Issei continued to struggle with his left arm as the red glow intensified. Boost. Issei, what's wrong, please let me help you. Rias begged off her pawn almost as if she had forgotten her current state of dress. I don't need your help. I need you to get out of here now. He said, sounding a bit more angry than before. Boost. Why am I so angry with her? She's just trying to help me, but it's too dangerous and she needs to leave. I need to calm down. Issei's mind was racing and the boosts intensified. Boost. Issei's aura became visible, a dark violent red, which filled his master with an even greater amount of concern. Issei, please. I don't know what I did, but please don't push me away. Rias yelled to the boy, trying to change his mind. I can't deal with you right now. It's dangerous. I don't want to risk hurting you or Asia. Issei argued back, but his words caused tears to form in the pure devil's eyes. Asia, it's always Asia. Rias said, getting louder as she continued to talk until she started shouting. Why is it always her? I try so hard to make you see me. Even now when I'm like this, I went to you first. I wanted you to be my first. You're mine. I own you, mind and soul. But your heart you gave to someone else, and now you're so cold to me. Why, what did I do wrong? Her voice eventually quieted back down. Issei, however, was experiencing confusion, frustration, fear, a bit of concern, and anger, causing his powers to become even more uncontrollable. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. Issei, now cloaked in his armor, made one last attempt to get his master to leave. Rias, you're wrong, you're very important to me. That's why I need you to leave now. I promise I'll tell you what's going on later, but right now I can't control it. Please, I can't afford to lose you too, I don't know what I'd do. Please go. Once his master was out of harm's way, Issei knew he had to act fast. Ends the transformation now. Command code 19. Complete power transfer. Issei yelled, causing his body to glow a bright red and his armor to fade, but now his hand was glowing completely red. He immediately made his way to a window and pointed his arm into the night sky when a gigantic wave of energy erupted from his left arm directly up into the air, making sure there were no casualties. After releasing such an explosive amount of power, his body collapsed and he fell into an unconscious state next to the windowsill. Issei yawned as he slowly made his way down the street, accompanied by Asia hunched over with bags under his eyes. The previous night had not been ideal for the young devil. Now he was tired, confused and in an all-around bad mood. Damn it, Rias. What the hell was that yesterday? Issei thought as he recollected the events that transpired the previous night, and a small blush formed across his face. He immediately shook it off. Calm, gotta remain calm. Last night was a disaster and I almost lost control. I really need to apologize to Rias and explain myself. Issei mentally berated himself for almost losing his cool again as Asia desperately tried to get his attention. Issei. Asia yelled with all her might, finally snapping Issei out of his trance. The shock caused Issei to take a martial arts stance in a panic as he faced the young girl, making him look rather silly. Asia. I'm sorry for daydreaming. He bowed respectfully. And no, it's fine. Asia waved her hands dismissively in front of the boy, so he stood back up. Anyway, I was just asking if Rias has given you any more information yet. Oh, let me check. Issei pulled his phone out of his pocket, opened it and went to his message. Under the contact that read 95D was a short message that simply said meet at the clubhouse before school. Bring Asia. No, nothing new. I wonder what she wants. Oh, I see. I hope everything is alright. Asia was curious about what her master could need. Issei nodded and the two resumed their walk to school. At the Orc. Issei swung the door open and walked in rather nonchalantly with his hands in his jacket pockets and his eyes closed, followed by Asia, who was significantly more polite and ladylike with her entrance. Alright, we're here. What did you do? Issei's words were cut short as he opened his eyes and surveyed his surroundings. Hiba and Koneko were both sitting opposite of each other on each of the twin couches parallel to the coffee table, and Akeno was in the background working on a pot of tea. None of that seemed too out of the ordinary, but what was strange was how Rias paced back and forth across the room with an extremely worried look on her face. Another anomaly was a strange woman dressed in maid's attire who looked to be in her mid to late 20s but was sporting well-kept and styled grey hair. The aura of this woman wasn't strong, but for some reason Issei felt like it was dangerous. The maid noticed Issei almost instantly and decided to meet him face to face. Oh, you must be the pawn. It is a pleasure to meet you, Red Dragon Emperor. My name is Grafia. Grafia spoke with a matter-of-fact tone as she took a bow. Issei bowed back to her in an act of respect. By the time their mutual genuflect had ended, Rias had noticed the presence of her pawn and was making a beeline directly for him. Issei, thanks Satan you're here. Rias enveloped the boy in a sudden deep embrace, catching Issei off guard a bit, causing his face to redden once again, but then she did something unexpected. After their embrace had ended, Rias shifted her location to directly behind the boy, but her arms remained on his back. She positioned her head so that she could barely see over his left shoulder, almost as if she was hiding something. "Alright, now you're gonna tell me." Issei was cut off once again, but this time it was the sudden appearance of a magic circle on the floor towards the center of the orc. In contrast to Ria's circles, this one was a bright and vibrant orange, almost like a flame. The circle flashed brightly before an actual flame erupted from it. "Huh. I called it." Issei thought to himself, looking rather bored. The man with blonde hair, looking to be in his early 20s, sporting a maroon blazer and matching pants, emerged from the flames with a smug grin on his face. "My beloved Rias," the man announced to the room with his hands raised as if he was on display. "I've come oh so far to see you. You should be very grateful." He dropped his hands and put them back on his dot. "Oh wow. Is he trying to be an I'm villain?" Issei thought to himself, now sitting in an armchair sipping on some of the tea Koneko had made. For all those unaware, Rias spoke up. "This is Riser Phoenix. Third in line to the House of Phoenix, high-class devil, and Rias Sama's fiancé." A few moments later, in the exact same place. "This tea is an exceptional queen of Gremory," Riser said as he sipped the tea slowly as he played with Ria's hair, sitting extremely close to her. "Issei, why are you just sitting there?" Rias thought to herself, getting more and more uncomfortable as time went on. "Get up and scare the crap out of him. Be like, back off douchebag. She's special to me like you said last night. What could you possibly be thinking about that's more important than this? Man, that Riser dude is right. This tea is incredible." Issei thought to himself as he stared at his cup. "Also, now I know what was going on last night. She must have been trying to use me to break off her engagement. That makes much more sense than." Issei shook his head, trying to get that thought out of his mind. "Man, I do feel pretty bad for her, but I also feel something else that kinda hurts." "What the hell is this feeling?" "I don't know, all I know is it, and I don't like it." Riser slowly moved his other hand towards Ria's thigh and began to caress it sensually, which was the last straw for Rias. "That's enough, Riser," Rias said with a rather imposing voice as she pushed the man off of her. "I have absolutely no intention of marrying you, not now or ever," she finished with a huff. "Oh, but Rias, I don't believe that your family is in the position where you can cancel this engagement," Riser said with a smug look upon his face. "I am aware of my family's current state, and I have no intention of denying your right to the family name," Rias said, causing Riser to grin as if he had won. "But my husband will be my choice." Rafia decided to interject at this point. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I for one would very much like to hear Haidu-kun's opinion," she said, directing her attention to Issei, who was still sipping his tea and appeared to have not been paying attention, which caused Rias to face palm. "You mean you want to hear my opinion on arranged marriage?" Issei put his cup down on the coffee table and stood to speak. "Before becoming a devil, I lived in a very wealthy and important Japanese household, so naturally the topic of my own engagement came up rather frequently throughout my childhood. This came as news to everyone, even Rias, who thought she knew nearly everything about her pawn's past. It even got to the point where I met with multiple female suitors. They were all fairly attractive, but even so it was never a subject that provided me with any joy. I don't know why. Luckily, my grandmother ended the talks of engagement and I was spared that fate, but if it ever came down to it, I always told myself that I would end up doing what was right for my family," Issei said with pure sincerity, much to Riser's delight and to Ria's dismay. "However, I now believe that if you're passionate enough about something, you should be given the chance to fight for what you believe to be right." Issei closed his fist and looked the gray-haired maid directly in the eyes. The boy's words caused his master to blush slightly. Riser, now gritting his teeth, turned his attention back to Rias. "I don't care what the servant has to say. You will come back with me to the underworld, even if I have to burn every single one of your servants to a crisp." Riser's words had finally gotten Issei's attention, and he decided he'd acted last. Issei stood up, releasing a small wave of aura, getting the attention of Riser. "Look, I don't care about this arranged marriage. Doesn't affect me in the slightest. When you threaten me and my friends, however, then we have a problem." Issei started the high-class devil down, his face showing little emotion, but his eyes shining with anger. "I've had just about enough of this boy who thinks his opinion matters in the slightest." Riser looked down at Issei, now sounding a bit annoyed. "Just who the hell do you think you are?" "I am Issei. Pawn of Rias, and this generations." Before he could finish, Issei was interrupted by Riser, who began to burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha ha." Riser began to laugh almost uncontrollably. "A pawn thinks he can speak like this?" Riser said in disbelief, still laughing. He was bent over laughing when he snapped his finger, and an even larger magic circle appeared at the center of the room. A giant flame erupted from it and 15 distinctively different girls emerged from the fire. Ha ha. Maya. A girl with blue hair tied into 2 buns on both sides of her head, who was wearing a martial arts guy and equipped with a long staff with 2 white spheres on each end. Put this insignificant wretch in his place. With pleasure, Riser Sama. The girl jumped into the air with her stuck held above her head, planning a downward strike. Crack. Riser's confident grin quickly turned into a face dominated by shock as pieces of staff fell to the ground and Issei held the girl up over his head by the throat, now with his gauntlet covering his left arm. No way. He punched right through Maya's staff. One of Riser's Peerage members announced. Impossible, that arm. No, it can't be. Why would you be here with her? Riser thought, staring at Issei's left arm, then looking back at Rias, who had been staring at him with a confident look on her face. So fragile. Issei said, looking up at Maya, who was going purple due to lack of oxygen, before shifting his attention back to Riser. Is this really your Peerage? Why the hell are they so weak? They look like they will break if I simply touch them. Issei moved his arm as if he was lightly tossing away garbage, but the force sent the blue-haired girl crashing through a wall. Issei looked back at the girl, who was now sitting upright surrounded by rubble from the broken wall, with eyes filled with sorrow. I'm sorry, it's not your fault your master is so pathetic. It was wrong of me to throw you so hard. Issei's words didn't make the girl feel any better, but his charisma was rather charming. Their little moment ended as Issei turned back to Riser and began to slowly make his way towards him. You call me boy, or wretch? How dare you insult me? Issei yelled as his aura grew more intense. You threaten my friends, you hurl your insults at me, and now you dare to damage my pride by attempting to harm me with these insects you call a Peerage. Issei was furious, his words began sounding more and more violent as he continued to speak. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. I am Issei Haidu, Red Dragon Emperor. My power is infinite, my might makes the gods themselves tremble in fear, entire civilizations worship the very ground I've walked on, and you are nothing compared to me. Ah, I can play and I'm villains too. Issei thought to himself. Riser stared wide-eyed at the draconic monster as he used the most violent aura he'd ever seen. His knees began to shake and buckle in fear. He summoned a large ball of flames to his right and held it up, preparing to hurl it at the armored boy. Issei wasn't willing to sit by and let Riser attack him, so he opened the vents on the back of his armor. Each vent released its own stream of red energy, propelling Issei forward at incredible speeds. Riser's attack halted as the devil seemed to freeze in freefall. Everything seemed to be in slow motion at this moment except for Riser's mind. What's going on? This can't be happening, he's so fast and that aura is so powerful. That punch is going to. A shadowy image of Riser getting impaled by Issei's fist flashed across the high-class devil's mind. I'm going to die. Riser dropped his arms and his head into a pathetic defensive stance that would have most likely done a poor job of defending him if the attack had ever come. After a few seconds of delay, Riser's curiosity got the better of him and he lifted his head in an attempt to discover why he was still alive. He looked up to reveal a 3-inch thick wall of see-through red energy, keeping the legendary Sekiryuite at bay, a mere 3 feet from Riser's face. That's quite enough out of the both of you. Grafia was holding her hand up, proving she was the source of the magical wall. Her eyes were closed, and even though her eyes showed little emotion, she sounded slightly more annoyed than before. If you two continue, I will be forced to take action. As Grafia emphasized she released a bit of her massive aura. Riser was initially frightened, but decided to chalk this up as a personal victory. Haha, stupid dragon. Riser's confident grin had resurfaced, a stark contrast to the face he was making a few seconds earlier. You really need to learn a thing or two. Riser was cut short by a slight crack. Issei's first had struck Grafia's wall repeatedly for the past 20 seconds, but after the last strike, it began to crack ever slightly, shutting Riser up quickly. Issei, Grafia's right, you can't kill Riser. Rias said with a monotone voice, finally speaking up. The Redeed then shot the blonde devil a frightening glare. Yet. Issei powered his armor down and dropped his head in disappointment. The girl with twin blonde drills in her hair pushed her way to the front of Riser's Peerage to congratulate him. Yeah, you heard him, you red dragon idiot. Ani-sama isn't afraid of you at all. This caused Issei to grin a bit. Ani-sama, eh? Issei said with a malicious grin. So your sister's sister? Issei said to the girl happily, confusing the young girl. Wow, I just thought you were another one of his whores. Issei said, getting angry grins from the rest of the Peerage. My. I never would have assumed that Riser would care so much about family, but I guess I did only meet him today. Still, I am pleasantly surprised by you. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. Issei, now clad in armor, walked up to the blonde girl before sending his gaze back to Riser. Now you will bow to me, or I will completely obliterate the girl. Issei's bright smile transformed into a terrifying grin as he held up his left arm to the girl, and a small red energy ball formed near his palm. Well, what's it gonna be, Riser? What do you value more, your pride or your little sister? Boost. All the gems on Issei's armor flashed green, and the energy ball got bigger. Riser gritted his teeth as he evaluated the situation. Damn. I can feel the power of that energy. If he actually does it, there is no way Ravel will survive. Why did the idiot have to open her damn mouth? I had won until she ruined everything. Oh wow. Issei turned to Ravel. He's taking so long to answer, which means he can't decide it if you mean more to him than his own pride. That's not a good sign. Issei said nonchalantly, like the whole situation didn't matter to him. Boost. The energy ball got a bit larger. Ani-sama. Ravel pleaded with to her brother. Damn it, Ravel. Let me think. Riser was panicked as he continued to heavily weigh his options. Boost. That's it. You're out of time. Choose now. Issei announced seriously, this time sounding almost concerned. Riser didn't answer, nor bow down. He simply looked down for a few seconds before turning to Issei standing tall. Issei couldn't believe how cruel Riser was acting towards his own family. Issei's face changed into one of pure disgust and disbelief. Ravel was now bawling after her brother chose his pride over her life. Issei dropped his arm but didn't release the energy. He walked up to the blonde girl and put the opposite hand on her head, catching the girl off guard. Calm down, Haim-sama. I could never bring myself to kill such an adorable girl. I'm not a monster. I just wanted to scare your brother a bit. Issei tried to soothe the girl's tears with kind words and a gentle smile. It worked as the tears stopped flowing and the blonde girl looked up at the boy and her face began to change into a bright red. Ha. Riser began to laugh. I knew you couldn't do it. Look everybody, the mighty red dragon emperor doesn't have any ba. Riser was silenced as Issei fired the overcharged energy, which barely missed Riser's head by a centimeter. You disgust me. Issei powered his armor down and walked back to his seat and plopped back down and resumed his tea drinking. Ahem. Grafia quieted the room down before speaking. Anyway. Surzich's-sama has requested the matter of Ria's engagement be settled via rating game, and if Riser-sama refuses, then it counts as forfeit and Rias will not be marrying a coward. Rating game? Rias told me about that once. It's kinda like a big street fight between peerages. Issei thought before smirking. Sounds like a blast. Issei stood up once again. I'm game 100%. Let's go right now. Issei announced to the room, confidently causing Riser's peerage to shudder. After Issei showcased his power, it was safe to say no one wanted a piece of him. Yeah, Riser will take you on anytime you want, but keep in mind when Issei utterly embarrassed you mere seconds ago, he wasn't even promoted. Ria said while sipping tea on her couch before shooting the rival king a confident glare. Riser began to growl, but he really didn't want to see what Issei was like at full power. He was hesitant to accept the rating game and was contemplating forfeiting when Grafia spoke up. Actually, the rating game cannot occur today. Grafia announced, causing everyone to look up at her. Surzich's-sama desperately wishes to attend this game so that he may see the Red Dragon and Rias together in action. Unfortunately, he is very busy, so the game will take place a week from tomorrow. This is non-negotiable. Grafia said very firmly so that no one would oppose her. Riser smirked. You heard her, we have a week to train, so I would chalk yourselves up a victory just yet. Riser said confidently before summoning a circle below his feet. Issei spoke up one last time before his enemy could leave. You said it yourself. You have a week to become something other than the pathetic excuse for a king you are today, and you sounded confident that your training could bring you to a level that could match my own. So if you disappoint me a second time, then there won't be a third. Issei's threat reached Riser's entire peerage, and they didn't have a counter, so they simply retreated while they could. The orc was now significantly emptier as the only people who remained were the 6 members of Ria's peerage and Grafia. Hey, how come you didn't stop me when I was threatening the jerk sister? Issei said, standing next to Grafia, not making eye contact with her, but anyone could still tell who he was talking to. Also, that wall I almost broke. You weren't using anywhere near your full power, were you? Issei put his head down after this statement, disappointed he couldn't compete with an opponent who was holding back. Grafia turned to the boy, attempting to make eye contact with him. No, that was not my full power. Grafia said, causing Issei to let out a disappointed sigh. However, that wall could hold nearly any high-class devil without so much as cracking, so the power you demonstrated today was admirable. As for not interfering when you threatened Ravel-sama, let's just say you need to learn how to bluff. I sense absolutely no killing intent from you since I arrived here this morning. Issei was satisfied with her explanation and agreed with her reasoning. That makes sense, and thanks for the compliment. Now if you'll excuse me, my master gave me the day off from school, so Kiba, Asia, and I are planning on hitting up the arcade. Issei turned away from the mysterious maid and began to slowly walk away until. Oh, one last piece of advice. Grafia said, causing Issei to look over his shoulder and meet her gaze. I've known a few sacred gear possessors in my time who have let their powers get the better of their sanities. One thing each of them had in common, a terrible temper. Grafia said before delivering Issei a cold blank stare, which caused the boy to turn around and lower his head so that his bangs covered his eyes in a shadow. Yeah. I know. Rias stood alone in front of what seemed to be a massive castle atop a forested mountain. The Redeed seemed rather annoyed as a blood vessel began to bulge atop her head. Rias began to stomp her feet as she growled in frustration. Where are they? Rias yelled at the sky. Almost on cue, an armored Issei came slowly flying in, going no faster than 50 miles an hour. Issei had his left arm wrapped firmly around Asia, and in his right he was carrying 2 separate suitcases. As Issei began to land, Rias got a closer look at Asia's face, which was oozing with delight. This only served to make Rias even angrier. Issei dropped the bags on his feet before slowly setting Asia to the ground and deactivating his armor. Issei looked a bit annoyed himself. You could have waited like 5 more minutes. Issei said with narrow eyes and a hand to his hip. I specifically told you. Meet at the train station at 7:30, Rias said in a huff as she turned away from the boy. You shouldn't have slept in so late. It's not my fault. Issei shouted back at his master. Asia was having trouble with her packing, she's never had to do it. I thought I told you that in the text. Issei said accusingly. Rias turned back to Issei, her face now flushed with frustration. The train was gonna leave. What were we supposed to do? Rias fired back. You can't blame Asia, either. You should have taken responsibility and helped her get packed in advance. I wasn't the one who told you and Kiba to go hit on girls in the arcade last night. Oh, as if Kiba and I could. Issei was stopped mid-argument by a slight tug on the back of his jacket. He turned around to find Asia struggling to say something. Huh, Asia, do you need something? Please stop arguing with Rias-sama. Asia shouted, rather suddenly getting the attention of the entire peerage. Issei was a bit startled by the sudden yelling, but gathered himself and gave the young blonde a nod. Issei turned to Rias and sighed. Huh. She's right, I shouldn't be mad at you. It's my fault for being so late. Issei bowed to his master, who turned away from him with a huff, obviously still upset. As Issei returned to an upright position, he received another yank on his jacket. You Issei, one more thing. Asia mumbled just loud enough that Issei could understand her. See, can we please fly together again? Asia said rather awkwardly, causing Issei to blush a bit. Issei. Rias said, still facing away from the two of them, but now slightly shaking. 500 push-ups. Wait. What did I do this time? Issei retaliated. A blast of red energy shattered a nearby boulder and caused Issei to jump. Rias was now turned around facing the frightened boy, hands charged with demonic energy. Her eyes could pierce steel. Now. 499 push-ups later. Hew. Issei's breaths were wheezy and stagnant. With all the strength remaining in Issei's arms, he lifted himself off the ground into a plank position. 500. Damn it. 500 push-ups without using a single boost. She might actually be a psychopath. Issei's eyes widened as he came to that realization. Wow, you finished faster than expected. Rias said, seemingly coming out of nowhere, causing Issei to jump. Damn, forget psychopathic, she may just be psychic. Issei thought to himself before answering. Yeah, I used to do physical training regularly, so I was in pretty good shape, but this was still pretty intense. Issei sat up and crossed his legs with his eyes closed. When at last he opened them, Rias had invaded Issei's personal space, causing him to lean back a bit. Rias got closer and closer to Issei's face until she was mere inches away. So, are we gonna talk about what's going on with you now? I don't know what you mean. Issei said sheepishly, desperately trying to avoid eye contact. You know, from that night. You said we were gonna talk about why you've been so distant lately. You remember, right? Rias desperately asked for information as she slowly got closer. Issei turned his head slightly to the right, refusing to look his master in the eyes. Of course I remember. I just wish you hadn't. Flashback. Issei was standing on towards the corner of his bedroom opposite and near completely Rias. Issei's bed separated the two of the. Issei was clearly struggling with his glowing red gauntlet as it began to boost out of control. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. Issei, now cloaked in his armor, made one last attempt to get his master to leave. Rias, you're wrong, you're very important to me. That's why I need you to leave now. I promise I'll tell you what's going on later. I'll explain everything, but right now I can't control it. Please, I can't afford to lose you too, I don't know what I'd do. Please go. Flashback ends. Issei's eyes narrow but appear more sad than angry. No. Issei says, pushing Rias off of him and standing back up. I have no idea what you're talking about. Now if you'll excuse me, I have some training to do. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. Issei spreads his wings and begins to soar off towards the mountains before his master could react. What did I do? I don't get it. Why won't he talk to me? What is he hiding? Rias thought to herself as her eyes began to well up. Rias was already stressed out from the engagement and Issei wasn't helping at all. Fine. If that's how he wants to be, then I give up. I'm over it. Rias looked up at the flying Issei before turning away. Jerk. Issei was flying away from his master as he attempted to justify what he had just done. This is my problem. She needs to worry about the engagement and the rest of her peerage instead of the pathetic pawn who can't control his own powers. A few hours of training later. Ha! Issei sighed as he made his way back to the main plaza of Ria's vacation house. Issei was slouched over, looking rather depressed. Needless to say, the training hadn't gone well. Damn it. Everything seems to work properly, but if I can't use rage or any other strong emotions to boost my power, then I'm not really going 100% and pushing myself. Issei reunited with Rias and the rest of her peerage, who seemed to be finishing their own training at one of the many outdoor spaces located around the complex. Hey guys, how's it going? Issei greeted the orc, sounding rather depressed and uninterested. Why does Issei look so sad? Did something happen? Rias looked on at her troubled pawn, her eyes were filled with concern. Issei noticed this and flashed her a smile that was obviously forced. Rias crossed her arms and turned away with a HMPH. What do I care anyway? He's a big boy and he can take care of himself. I guess I deserve that. Issei thought to himself. Akeno noticed the exchange between the two. A sly smile formed on her face as a devilish idea manifests in her mind. Ara. Issei-kun. Akeno called Issei over to her, getting Rias to jump, but she still refused to turn around. Yeah, Akeno. Issei said as he made his way towards her. Is there something I can help you with? No, it's just after training all day you smell so intoxicating, it's almost addictive. What's a girl to do? The voluptuous black-haired queen, who was wearing her shrine attire low, which showed off massive amounts of cleavage, walked up to Issei, who had just finished his daily training. What the hell are you doing, Akeno? Rias thought to herself as she continued to refuse to turn around and face the two, but nonetheless a bright red blush had completely covered her face. Issei, don't just stand there shamelessly and let her flirt with you. Issei-kun, the last girl who kissed you was that monster Rainer, right? Akeno's words made Issei's eyes widen in shock of hearing the fallen angel's name, which caused him to look away in shame. Come on, Akeno. As if I didn't have enough crap to feel bad about already. Issei thought as he began to calm down a bit. Akeno grabbed the boy by the cheeks and positioned him so that he was staring directly into her eyes, which were now mere inches away. I think it's time you forget about her. Akeno began to lean in and pucker her dot. Hey Akeno. Rias turned around and stuttered out of shock, but still attempted to stop the girl from stealing a kiss. Slowly the two came closer together until… whoosh. A gust of wind caused by Issei's gauntlet blocking Akeno's power electrically charged fist. Impressive, Issei-kun. I needed to make sure that none of the girls in Riser's peerage could defeat you the same way Rainer did. Akeno said with a bright smile and closed eyes as she began to charge her body with magic power as she prepared to spar. I like to think I learned from my mistakes. Still too bad you were just testing me though. Issei responded with a playful smile before taking a martial arts combat pose. Boost. The valley of lightning bolts began to close in on Issei. He sidestepped to the right before jumping into the air, expertly dodging 2 lightning bolts, but not a third. A well-placed lightning bolt struck him dead in the chest, sending him back to the floor. Ah. This is getting a bit intense, I better level the playing field. Promotion Queen. Issei announced as a red queen piece appeared behind him. His body began to surge with power comparable to multiple boosts. Geez, so this is promotion. Incredible. Issei charged Akeno again a second time, but unlike before he was able to avoid each lightning blast flawlessly. After closing the distance between himself and Akeno, Issei delivered a powerful uppercut into Akeno's stomach and effectively launching her into the air. Issei did a backflip to separate himself from Akeno, who was now floating above him. The queen fired more blasts of lightning that recollected to form a giant ball of lightning. Issei took a wide stance and reeled back his gauntlet-covered fist before firing a powerful punch that destroyed the huge attack. Man, this queen promotion is incredible, this fight is almost too easy. Issei thought proudly to himself, but that pride would suddenly change to shock as his eyes widened in realization. Wait, she's also a queen, so we should be even right now, but I'm dominating right now. That could only mean one thing. She's holding back. This began to grit his teeth. It angered him that she dared to hold back against him. He took it as a direct insult to his pride. The gem on Issei's gauntlet began to glow red as he was overtaken by his anger. Alright. If you won't take this fight seriously, then I'm gonna go all out. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. try holding back now. Issei rushed forward towards his friend, showing no sign of slowing down. He reeled back a fist preparing for a massive strike. Akeno saw this and raised her magic barrier in an act of self-defense. Issei didn't hesitate as he fired a fist directly at the center of Akeno's magic circle. At first the barrier stood, but the power of Balance Breaker along with the Queen promotion caused it to shatter and Akeno's body met the full force of Issei's anger. "Stop it," Issei said with a growl. "Fight me with everything you've got." Issei yelled, but this didn't sound like Issei. Issei stopped this instant. Rias yelled trying to get the fighting between the two Peerage members to stop. Unfortunately for her this was not Issei. Whatever it was had Issei's body and spoke with his voice, but it obviously wasn't Issei. At least he wasn't the one calling the shots. Whoever was in charge seemed to be much more primal. The creature continued its assault on Akeno. Luckily for her the beast became relatively predictable. One power attack after another, the beast fought with no strategy whatsoever and simply relied on instinct. Akeno was smaller, more nimble and much more intelligent, she was able to easily dodge the attacks. After a while Issei's body began to slow as exhaustion set in. Akeno saw her chance and decided to take it. "Issei, please. You must calm down and regain your senses." Akeno pleaded to Issei from a safe distance but received no response. "I promise you that I don't mean to offend you in the slightest, but..." Akeno paused a bit as she contemplated what she was about to say with a sad expression. "I can't tell you why, but I can't use my full power. I refuse to use it. I would rather die than use that power." Tears began to stream down the girl's face as haunting memories began to resurface. However, this would prove effective as Akeno's words mixed with physical exhaustion finally allowed Issei to regain control and release his armor. As the armor dissipated, Issei dropped to his hands and knees and began to heave with exhaustion. "No, it's getting worse. Another outburst like that and everyone including myself is as good as dead. I have to fix this. Now." "Partner." Drake replied mentally almost on cue. "There is a way to regain control of your emotions. The past possessors who currently reside in the sacred gear are rather upset that you decided to ruin the reincarnation cycle of the boosted gear when you became a devil and drastically increased your lifespan. But if you meet with them, you might be able to defeat this curse." Drake explained. Issei was about to agree with Drake when he was interrupted. "Issei? Issei, are you okay?" Issei came to and realized that Rias and the rest of the orc was huddled around him, making sure he was okay. Issei immediately jumped up and awkwardly began to apologize to everyone, then he turned to Akeno and bowed. "I'm deeply sorry," Issei announced as he remained bowing. "I understand that you have a problem with using your full power, and I respect that. It's just." Issei looked away a bit as his eyes filled with sorrow. "My own parents died right in front of my eyes because I didn't have enough power. And right now I can sense so much power coming from you, it's so warm and bright and kinda familiar, so when we fought I could tell you were holding back and I guess my emotions got the better of me. I'm sorry." His parents. Just like. Akeno stared wide-eyed at the boy as he continued to genuflect. She shook the thoughts out of her head and began to speak. "I forgive you, now please lift your head." The boy did as told and Akeno continued. "If it makes you feel better. That power you speak so highly of, I can't even use it as I am now. So technically I wasn't holding back in our fight. Actually that kinda makes me feel a bit worse about how I reacted," Issei said, rubbing his head awkwardly, and the two began to chuckle together. "Well, it's been a long day. I'm gonna take a bath. Your punishment will be that you don't get to join me tonight." Akeno smiled seductively and began to walk away. "Wait, Akeno." Issei called out, getting the girl to stop but not turn around. "It might be a bit selfish of me, but I don't ever want you saying that you'd rather die. My previous actions may contradict my words, but please trust me that you are far too valuable to talk about yourself that way. I mean, what kind of pawn would I be if I let any harm befell the queen? Am I right?" "Okay, I'll try to keep that in mind," Akeno replied sheepishly. She still refused to turn around because if she had then Issei would have seen how completely red Akeno's face was at that moment. Akeno quickly jogged away to escape further embarrassment. Issei yawned. "Well, I'm exhausted. I think I'm probably going to get some sleep myself." Issei was about to leave the plaza when he was stopped by a powerful grip around his left hand. Issei turned around to see Rias giving him a deadly serious glare. "Not so fast," Rias said before turning to the rest of her peerage. "All of you are dismissed for the day. I will stay behind and have a little chat with Issei." After the rest of the peerage had left, Rias sat Issei down and prepared to give him a piece of her mind. "Okay, listen. I don't know what's going on with you recently. You've been so cold and distant lately, that much I can take, but what I can't overlook is when anyone puts my family in danger. Even if it's you." Rias stood over Issei, who had his legs crossed with an upset look on his face. So what's gonna happen is you're gonna tell me exactly what's going on so we can fix it. The Issei began to growl in frustration. Be it exhaustion, frustration, fear, the shame of being talked down to or all of the above, but something caused Issei to snap. Fine. You wanna know what's going on? Issei yelled. I can't control it. I'm getting too strong too fast. Ever since becoming a devil my power has risen much higher than what I'm used to. Issei explained, causing Ria's eyes to widen with shock. And the night Asia died a massive power was awakened that caused my body to become more dragon-like, but at the same time it paved the way for an even more dangerous power to awaken. What do you mean? What does this have to do with the way you've been acting? Rias asked, not understanding Issei's point. The Juggernaut Drive. A power so dangerous that the very gods fear its might. You might think this is a good thing, but the power of Juggernaut Drive is a double-edged sword. Epic power at the cost of both my sanity and my life. Issei said, looking rather depressed, but stone-cold serious. I have no doubt that if the Juggernaut Drive were to activate now, then you, the whole occult research club, and anyone else unlucky enough to be caught in its rampage will die. The real kicker is that the Juggernaut Drive is triggered by powerful emotions, so until I can get it under control, I have to act cold. My god. I had no idea. I feel awful. He wasn't being a jerk. He was just trying to protect everyone from himself. I can't imagine how afraid he must be. Rias thought to herself as she looked on at her pawn, who was trying to smile, but it was obviously fake. I can't believe how selfish I've been. But today was the last straw. Issei continued. Tomorrow I take back my life. Issei announced, making a fist as he gave Rias a determined look. I'll put an end to this curse, once and for all. Alright partner. I want you to run the plan by me one more time. Drake instructed Issei, who had both of his hands closed in a thinking position. I'm gonna enter the sacred gear and politely ask the previous possessors to leave me alone. Issei was mentally preparing himself. Drake had informed Issei that even though the possessors couldn't hurt him physically, that he was at risk of losing his sanity. It's more complicated than that. Drake's tone took an angry shift that caused Issei to jump. This isn't a game, Issei. I won't be able to accompany you into that part of the sacred gear, you'll be without my guidance. The past possessors are bitter and cynical after their own deaths at the hand of the Juggernaut Drive. They only derive joy from seducing the next wielder with the power of Juggernaut Drive and watching the life drain from them as they slaughter their own friends and family. They will do whatever they can to wear away at your mental state, be it promises of immense power or mocking your shortcomings. Finally, at your lowest point, they will overtake your mind and attempt to trigger the drive. Drake speaks as if he's seen it happen before firsthand. You must convince them of your own resolve. Show them your determination, make them believe in your dream. Convince them that you will be the strongest dragon of them all. Issei nods his hand as he takes a deep breath. I understand. An hour later. This ought to do it. Issei said as he came across a windowless room in the castle's interior. Issei lit a few candles for some ambient lighting, making for the perfect meditation spot. Issei stood up to marvel at his handiwork with an arm placed on his hip. The boy closed his eyes and a small grin crept on his face. Figures Rias couldn't keep a secret. Issei said, revealing the other members of the orc standing behind him doing their best job to keep themselves hidden. Please don't blame her. Kiba spoke up. We're all you friends and of course we wanted to know what was bothering you, and from what you told us this is a pretty big deal. Issei, I'm sorry for not noticing you were troubled earlier. I hope I wasn't part of the problem. Asia apologized, her voice filled with concern. Issei turned to face his friends and gave a weak smile. No Asia, none of you guys are to blame for the way I've been acting. I probably should have said something earlier, but you know what they say about pride and falls. Also, you guys don't need to worry about me, I've never met a problem I couldn't handle myself. I'm kinda Welsh dragon prodigy. Issei said, using false confidence as a cover-up. You better have this under control like you said. Akeno gave her usual bright smile. Once you finish with this we should spar again, alright? Senpai is strong. Koneko finally spoke up. He's got this. The small girl lifted up her fist. I should have kept my mouth shut, now I have a standard to live up to. Issei said, rubbing the back of his head. I guess I only have one lecture left. Where is she? Hiba and Akeno stepped aside to reveal Rias, who appeared to be hiding. I told them you probably wanted to be left alone, but they didn't listen. Rias said nervously. I mean, you need to concentrate, right? And. There has to be something we can do, right? Rias yelled, finally getting to the point she was probably hoping to make all day. I mean, with Akeno's magic we could do something, maybe send Kiba in with you or something. Rias began to rattle off ideas, hoping Issei would agree to something. Issei placed his hand on the worried girl's shoulder in an attempt to calm her down. This is my deal, okay? You gotta go and train for the big fight and I gotta deal with this. Everything is gonna be alright. Issei let go of Rias before turning to the rest of the peerage. "Now if all of you will excuse, I need peace and quiet to perform the ritual." The room cleared out, leaving Issei by himself. The boy took one last deep breath and sat legs crossed in the center of the room. Issei called forth his gauntlet and laid it down on his lap, parallel to the rest of his body. Issei shut his eyes tightly, and a green glow emanating from Issei's gauntlet began to fill the room. When Issei reopened his eyes, he was no longer in Rias' castle. Issei had been transported to a world with a bright green floor, which was the same color as the sky above him. The area seemed rather empty, almost like a void. "Damn, this place is dull. No wonder those past possessors jerks have nothing better to do than mess with me," Issei said as he surveyed. Finally his eyes fell upon a crimson mass a couple hundred meters in the distance. "I guess that's where I gotta go." Meanwhile back in the real world. "Hey Issei, are you done yet?" Rias said, dressed in running clothes with her hair tied back into a ponytail. She walked into the room where Issei was sitting motionless in a meditation stance, eyes completely shut. Rias walked up to the boy until she was right next to him. "Hey Issei. Can you hear me?" Rias said as she carefully poked the boy in the cheek. After receiving no reaction, she quickly looked over her shoulder to confirm that she was truly alone. Rias then dropped down right next to Issei. A small blush sprawled across the young devil's face as she leaned towards the boy and nestled her head on top of Issei's shoulder. "Oh, wow. This actually really nice," Rias thought as she began to drift off to sleep. Back in the boosted gear. As Issei got closer and closer to the crimson mass, he learned that it was composed of hundreds of humanoid figures cloaked in crimson hoods. "Damn. Drake sure does get around," Issei said with a smug face, admiring his incredible comedic mind. When he noticed that all the cloaked figures have turned to face him. Ahem. Issei awkwardly cleared his throat as he wasn't prepared to say anything at that point, but he quickly thought something up. "So you're the ones who have been trying to use my own emotions against me. Well, I'm here to prove my worth and show you the strength of my desire." Issei took a confident pose as he awaited the response. One of the possessors raised his finger to point towards Issei. "Unworthy." This brought shock to Issei. How could that one possessor judge him so swiftly without even knowing the kind of person he was? Who was this man to say that he was unworthy of his title? Unfortunately, the one possessor's voice would be lost in the ever-growing chanting of the masses. "Unworthy. Unworthy. 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 Unworthy." And the chanting continued and began to drill itself into Issei's ears. "Enough," shouted one of the cloaked figures who made his way to the front of the crowd. Compared to the possessors, this one was significantly larger than the rest, and the crowd seemed to follow his orders. The large cloaked figure stopped directly in front of Issei and shifted his hood downwards, seemingly looking Issei in the eyes. "Greetings, current wielder. You needn't introduce yourself, young Issei. Everyone here knows who you are." The large man spoke with a very relaxed tone. "My name is Belzerd, and I am the strongest possessor Drake has ever known. I do not throw those words around lightly. In my tenure as Sekirute, I defeated the Vanishing Dragon not once but twice and earned the privilege of retaining most of my consciousness." Here Issei marveled at this man, the embodiment of who he strived to be as he turned to face the mod of previous possessors. These poor souls feel nothing but sorrow and rage and are only summoned when the cursed power that is Juggernaut Drive is called upon. "Then why are they here now?" Issei interrupted Belzerd too as he was overwhelmed by confusion. "I've never used Juggernaut Drive, I've never even begun the chant, but why do they torment me?" "Well, it is true that you have never activated the drive. If you'll recall the moment your now fellow devil was killed and you activated your original technique. The rage you demonstrated on that night was enough to awaken the past possessors, and in any other circumstance the Juggernaut Drive should have activated, but fortunately for you it didn't." The knowledge of Issei's life that Belzerd displayed solidified how long he has been observing Issei. Normally they would have disappeared by, but they seem to be rather displeased by the way you've used your power. In fact, they're demanding your head. They wish to force you into using the Juggernaut Drive so that your life force is drained from you while you are helpless to watch as you murder your friends. I was about to allow them to do so. No thing against you, I would simply be sacrificing your life to appease the masses. Belzerd continued. That was until I heard the declaration you made not too long ago. The strength of your desire, now that's something I'd very much like to see. So I propose a compromise. Belzerd summoned a pillar beneath his feet that raised him up so that all could see him. I propose a trial. The previous wielders of the boosted gear versus Issei Haidu. The accused will play the role of his own defense. Each side will be allowed an opening statement and a reel, and I will judge my ruling as final. The trial began immediately. A bright flash of light encompassed all that was visible, and when it dissipated, Issei and a few of the past possessors had been transported to a courthouse setting. Issei sat down at a table on the right side of the room while a tall slender possessor sat on the right. In front of the both of them sat Belzerd holding a gavel. Court is in session. Prosecution, please make your case. Belzard said, pointing his gavel towards the slender hooded man. Yes sir, your honor. The man stood up from his seat and spoke with very weaselly voice and sounded exactly like a lawyer. There's almost no need to state my case. It's obvious that Mr. Haidu is unworthy of the massive power that is the boosted gear. The Red Dragon Emperor is supposed to strike fear into the hearts of mankind as a whole. Genghis Khan, Vlad the Impaler, Jack the Ripper, Joseph Stalin. Just to mention a few of the possessors who embodied this philosophy. A real dragon would leave a trail of corpses in their wake, obliterate villages, rape the widows of his victims. Mr. Haidu doesn't possess this mindset. He's no killer. He's a high school student, top of his class. He flirts with girls. He joined an after-school club. I guess he can't be blamed for trying to act like a normal teenager, being that he was never supposed to unlock Drake's power in the first place. His statement was short and to the point. Issei didn't act very dragon-like, and this bothered the past possessors. Alright Issei Haidu, your opening statement. Belzard said, gesturing to Issei. Alright Issei, you got this. Remember, there is no jury, so there is only one person I have to convince. Issei hyped himself up before wham. Issei slammed his hand down on his own table, getting the attention of the courtroom. Obviously you all forgot who I was. I am Issei Haidu, youngest wielder in history to unlock Drake's power. I achieved at 7 years old what it took some of you geezers your entire lifetimes to do. Not to mention I was the youngest possessor ever to achieve Balance Breaker, as well as one of the few yielders to unlock a unique ability. Issei's boasting had shut up the entire crowd. Yeah, I wasn't supposed to ever be able to use the boosted gear, but I did and I became a prodigy. I denied the Juggernaut Drive, the very curse that cost all of you your lives. You say I'm not a killer, but how many fallen angels have I massacred? Well, a lot of you boast about slaughtering humans who can't hope to fight back. Let's get to the why I'm here. Issei continued. Every last one of you is afraid of change, but let me tell you something. Throughout history, the Red Dragon Emperor has always played the role of the worst part of history. That ends with me. From now on, the Welsh Dragon will no longer be associated with hate or fear, but instead strength and hope. Issei's words of change had attracted the attention of Belzard, as well as another cloaked figure towards the back of the room. And it starts 5 days from now, when the Welsh Dragon saves an innocent girl from an unhappy life with a disgusting phoenix devil, and if you don't like it, then that's tough because it looks to me like I'll be here a long time. Issei said, shooting a glare at the tall possessor. Smack. The sound of the gavel hitting the desk rang throughout the courtroom, and then Belzard spoke. Opening statements are over, next the defense will make their real. The use of memories as evidence is now allowed. With that, a small projector screen raised from the floor. Yes, your honor. The Weasley figure rose again from his seat. It's been brought to my attention that Mr. Haidu may be confused as to why this trial has come to order. We are not here to deny the strides this wielder has made, and as impressive as they be, it does not excuse the fact that he has still misused the power of sacred gear. Issei Haidu said himself that he was the youngest possessor to ever unlock the boosted gear, as well as the youngest to ever achieve Balance Breaker, but still 10 years after learning of Drake's existence, and over a year of being able to effectively use Balance Breaker, and he has yet to even come in contact with a vanishing dragon, much less attempt to fight him. Which, might I remind you, is the sole purpose of the Welsh Dragon. He also mentioned how he vanquished multiple fallen angels, but let's not forget how he was also shamefully killed by one, due to his own ignorance. Almost on cue, the clip of Raynor stealing a kiss from Issei before impaling him played on the projector, causing Issei to wince slightly at the memory of it before the lawyer possessor continued. But let's not forget his greatest crime, which he committed against himself. The projector then began playing the memory of Issei's parents' death. Mr. Haidu, after being shamefully slaughtered by the fallen angel, became devil in order to selfishly preserve his own life. He abandoned humanity for the very race that cost him his own parents. All attention was drawn to the monitor, which was frozen on an image of the night sky, which revealed a shadowy figure flying away from the scene of the crime, sporting a pair of bat-like wings. Enough, the prosecution's reel has ended, Belzard said, hitting his gavel to the desk. Issei, you're real. Issei stood motionless. He couldn't speak, all he could do is stare on in horror at the monitor. All this time there was a culprit, and the culprit was a devil. How? Why? This doesn't make sense. I don't believe it. Issei. You're real. Belzard said louder, trying to get the boy to snap out of it. No. It's not possible. How could this be? Why me? No. Issei was just staring at the screen as emotions began to flood his head to the point where he couldn't hear Belzard's demands. Issei, if you have no reel, then the prosecution wins by default. Bang. Bang. The gavel struck wood twice. The sentence is death. After Belzard said this, glowing green chains erupted from the floor, binding Issei's arms and legs, finally snapping him out of his trance. Outside world. Ria's eyes began to blink open as the gem on Issei's gauntlet began to glow a bright red. Isay. Ria said, rubbing the sleep out of her eyes. Inside the sacred gear. Activate the Juggernaut Drive. Belzerd announced. Wait. No. Stop. Issei yelled as he struggled with the chains, attempting to free himself. Please. Belzerd raised his hand, causing the chains to retract towards the floor, tightening and eliminating Issei's movements. Silence. I hope to see your resolve, but you truly disappointed me. Your fate has already been sealed. The projector began to display what was going on outside the boosted gear. Outside the boosted gear. The red light flashed brightly, obstructing Ria's vision, and when it had finally died down, it revealed Issei's body, now clad in balance breaker armor. Issei. What's going on? Did it work? Rias asked, but received no answer. Instead, the boosted gear began to speak. Who is about to awaken? A huge plume of aura erupted from Issei's body. Glowing green orbs began to escape from the gems along the armor. At last, it starting one of the orbs spoke in a feminine voice. Indeed, the time has finally come, replied an orb speaking with a male voice this time. Yes, this wielder has at last disregarded love for the sake of power. A different female voice announced. Disregarded love? Rias asked as she shielded her face from the intensity of the aura. The heavenly dragon who has stolen the principles of domination from God. The very castle began to shake. Inside the boosted gear. I laugh at the infinite and I grieve at the dream. The events from outside were playing on the projector screen as the glowing green world itself began to shake. Issei was left to watch helplessly, tears flowing from his eyes. No. Rias, everyone, I'm so sorry. I failed. I couldn't handle it, now everyone's gonna die and it's all my fault. The tears began to fall faster as Issei tried to cringe in order to keep himself from bawling out loud. I shall become the red dragon of domination. That's when he finally remembered something. Flashback. Why? A small Issei sobbed by a pile of smoldering rubble moments after the tragic death of his parents. His wails echoed into the night sky, but that's when a shining red gauntlet manifested itself on his right arm. Young one, please dry your eyes. There is nothing tears will do to help the situation. The voice of the dragon reappeared and tried to convince the now orphan to calm down. But, my mom and dad. They're gone. I loved them so much and now they're gone forever. Issei began to ramble, still too filled with sorrow to comprehend Drake's words. I have no choice but to be sad. That's where you're wrong, partner. Drake countered. There is always a choice no matter what the situation. Of all emotions, sorrow is the most useless. Anger, fear, jealousy. All negative emotions as well, but all can be used to fuel determination of some form, but sorrow can't do that. I hate to be cruel, but as my new partner I can't have you wasting your time on such a useless emotion, so I have a very simple piece of advice that you can use in any situation. Feeling sorry for yourself is essentially the same as giving up, so don't get sad, get mad. End of flashback. Issei shook away the tears and let Drake's words echo through his head. Don't get sad, get mad. 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 Issei screamed at the top of his lungs as he let his anger overtake him. His dark green eyes began to glow brighter and brighter as the yelling continued. A small red glowing circle began to appear below Issei as opposed to the previous green. Finally, Issei's scream, which was echoing throughout the boosted gear, getting the attention of Belzerd and the past possessors, became more like a dragon's roar. Welsh dragon dominating rage. Soul merge. Dryag's voice rang throughout the boosted gear, and the next thing you know. Crash. Issei had shattered the chains that had previously been binding him. Outside world. And I shall sink you to the depths. The boosted gear's voice stopped, and the orbs along with Issei's violent aura had disappeared, and Rias rushed over to the now seemingly lifeless armor to see what was going on. Inside the boosted gear. Issei, who was sporting intense glowing green eye, hair that was slightly spikier and more messy, and an intense red aura but no armor. He slowly made his way towards Belzerd as some of the generic cloaked figures attempt to flee behind the strongest possessor. Do you wish to challenge me? Belzerd took a stance that indicated he would not be backing down no matter what. I have prepared my reel. The merged voices of Issei and Drake came from the boy's mouth. Belzerd stood there for a moment before eventually nodding his head in agreement. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I am Issei Haidu, and I represent change. My argument is that I haven't misused my power because I just changed the rules. Issei said as he hovered above the crowd. I don't care that I messed up your system by becoming a devil because I changed the system. The fact that a devil killed my parents doesn't change anything about the choices I've made, because being Rias Gremory's pawn is the best decision I've ever made. You know what each and every one of you has in common? You're all dead, which is what makes you different from me. All of you chose hate or power as if they were the only two options, but I will make my own decision. Juggernaut Drive is my power, it's no longer yours, and I will use it as I see fit. Mark my words here and now. I will be the most powerful host that history has ever seen, and if you want proof, then simply open your eyes. My soul is merged with the king of domination himself. This is the strength of my desire that you so desperately wish to observe. Issei stared down at Belzerd as he finished his reel. I object. Both Issei and Belzerd turned their attention to a voice that was coming from a cloaked figure who was sporting feminine curves that were visible even through her robes. This boy has moved me with his resolve and made me believe in his dream. Aelsha, second strongest wielder and the strongest female wielder object to the guilty ruling involving Issei Haidu. Belzerd turned to Elsha and nodded. Since neither side can come to an agreement, this case will be acquitted and the accused will absolved of all charges. Blizzard re-summoned his desk and gavel and forcefully struck the wood wham. After that all of the past possessors disappeared with the exception of the two strongest. Well done Issei. Elsha congratulated the boy by giving him a pat on the shoulder. I don't know a single possessor in history who has managed to dodge the curse that is Juggernaut Drive twice. She quickly scanned the horizon before turning back to Issei. And it looks to me like avoiding the drive will no longer be a concern of yours. Congratulations, your emotions are once again yours, now go. You have a pretty young devil waiting for you. Yes, Issei. Belzerd followed up. You made the two of us believe in your dream. I'm almost certain that one day you will join us as one of the greatest wielders of all time, but one last thing before you go. In the real world. Rias was sat atop the shoulders of the balance breaker armor, desperately trying to yank the helmet off the armor, but to no avail. Suddenly the armor started to glow and fade, and Rias began to fall. Wah! Rias' screams were stopped by Issei who caught her before she could hit the floor. Rias looked up at the boy who flashed her a bright smile, filled with joy. Letting her know he was back with all his emotions intact. Oh Issei. You did it. Yeah, I told you not to worry, and there's no way I'd ever let you down. Issei's words caused Rias to pinken a bit. Yep, I'm back, and it's good to be back. Issei's gauntlet lit up a bright green causing power to surge throughout his body. Issei began to charge head-on at Kiba, who held his sword in a defensive knight, effortlessly dodged a straightforward attack with an incredible burst of speed that moved faster than Issei's eyes could track. Issei wasn't without a backup plan. In fact, he had anticipated the dodge and using the momentum he had gained by lunging, turned around to where Kiba ran to. A small ball of energy began to appear at the end of his crimson claw. Dragon shot. Issei yelled as he punched the energy ball, causing a beam of red energy to strike the blonde knight dead center in the chest. Kiba toppled backwards, kicking up a cloud of dust until the friction of his body against the ground eventually brought him to a stop. As the dust began to settle, Issei rushed over to make sure his friend wasn't badly injured. 6-5. I win today's tiebreaker. Issei said with a proud smile as he held his hand out to help Kiba to his feet. The blonde boy gladly took it and was lifted back onto his feet. And if memory serves, that makes 3-2 on the week. Tough luck buddy. Issei continued sounding rather smugly. That's true, but if I remember correctly, yesterday I beat you 8 rounds out of 10. Kiba responded, slightly punching Issei on his shoulder. That's true, but it's also true that I haven't used balance breaker or promoted in any of our spars. Mr. Knight. Issei said, giving Kiba a significantly harder punch to the shoulder than the one he had received. Meanwhile, all the remaining members of the Orc were simultaneously observing the exchange between the two male members. Well, don't those two appear close? Rias said as a sweat drop began to roll down the side of her face. I think it's cute. Akeno said, leaning her cheek on her hand while giving a bright smile. Nothing wrong with a bit of male bonding between clubmates. I wish Issei wanted to bond with me. Asia said, obviously not knowing the alternate meaning behind her words, but she still received rather stunned looks from the other girls, with the exception of Koneko, who looked as if she could care less. Issei and Kiba met back up with the rest of the group, the two of them drenched in sweat after their long day of training. Tomorrow would be the long-awaited, for Issei, battle between Lord Riser and his Peerage. Even though on the surface everyone looked upbeat and maybe a bit carefree, in reality tension ran deep. With the exception of Issei. Just one more day. Issei said with a bright smile plastered onto his face. Now that the boosted gear is working right again, I can focus solely on the blissful tranquility of violent combat. Mind and body working in tandem, the chance to prove my strength and just how far I've come. I can't wait. It seemed as if stars appeared in his eyes as Issei explained just how much he was looking forward to the upcoming showdown. Ara. It sounds to me like Issei-kun is prepared to take on Riser-sama's whole peerage by himself. Akeno commented as she marveled at the boy's fighting spirit. Wait, can I? Issei asked, turning to Rias with bright eyes. The boy's question caused the redhead to face palm. No, Issei. Rias said, almost like a parent refusing an annoying child. I swear, I have no idea how you can feel so confident that you'll win this fight. Regardless of how strong you are, in a rating game if I'm defeated you lose automatically, and in case you've forgotten we are outnumbered in this match. I know, right? Issei exclaimed with a cheerful smile on his face. Even if I do have the advantage in strength, it's possible they could extinguish that advantage with sheer numbers. Plus that riser dude is no slouch on the strength side, as it stands right now it's possible that this fight can go either way. That's what makes it so exciting. Issei got up in Ria's face and was nearly shouting because he couldn't contain his enthusiasm. Rias pushed the boy's face away with a single finger as a vein began to pop out of her forehead. I'm glad to see you so enthusiastic and full of emotion. It's a nice contrast to your previously cold demeanor. I would, however, like to bring it to your attention that if we do lose, I'm gonna have to marry that dirtbag. Rias yelled directly into Issei's face, obviously upset with his carefree attitude. DFFT. Ha 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 ha. Issei bursted out laughing, completely breaking the serious tension his master had tried to create. This isn't funny, Issei. Rias couldn't believe how her pawn could just laugh at her plight like that. This is my entire life, my whole freedom, everything is on the line here. Issei began to calm down as he wiped tears from his eyes. Yeah. I know, I shouldn't have laughed. Issei said as he backed up away from Rias, creating some space. It's just funny that you thought I'd actually let him do that. Issei's words caused a confused expression to form across Ria's face. Are you kidding? Making me a devil was all your idea, wasn't it? There is no way I'd let you give away from me after making me an immortal devil creature. I'm gonna need another 10,000 years of company. I don't care if I have to create hell on earth. I'm never gonna let anyone take you away, not now, not ever. Issei said as if he was stating fact before letting out a long yawn. Alright, I guess that means it's getting late. I think I'm gonna take a bath, then I'm probably gonna get some sleep. Issei turned around and began to walk away, his hands placed firmly in his pockets. He's just gonna walk away after saying something so forward. Ria's face was bright red after the declaration Issei made. Wait. Rias stuttered, getting Issei to stop. Crap, I didn't actually have anything I really wanted to say. I just didn't want him to leave. It almost seemed like time had slowed down as Issei began to turn around. Yeah. Issei's hair began to dance in the evening breeze, his emerald green eyes seemed to shine in the evening light. Is there something you need? Rias was at a loss for words as her already red face seemed to darken several shades. Why, you better make good on your word. Rias said as she turned around and made her way towards the castle. The next day. Get up. Kiba yelled as he violently shook Issei to try to wake him. Ugh. Issei groaned as he began to stir in his bed before finally blinking his eyes open. When he finally gained consciousness he saw Kiba's face directly above him, beaming down on him with serious eyes. Why? Issei whined. Because. Kiba replied sternly. I thought you were the one most excited about fighting today. You can't let butt you down after saying all those things to her last night. I know. Issei agreed, reluctantly trying to get Kiba to stop scolding him. It's just, why does it have to be so early? Issei Haidu. It's 9:30. Kiba said deadpanned. Outside the Gremory training grounds. Alright everyone. Rias announced. You're free to go home for the moment, but please meet back up at the club room at around 6 to talk strategy before the rating game. I just want to say one last thing. Rias began to smile as she looked around at her peerage. I am so very proud of the growth each and every one of you has made this past week. Be it physically, emotionally, or personally. I stand in front of a completely different group of people than I did a week ago. So regardless of their superior numbers, we have the advantage where it counts. Now let's go show that jerk Riser and the rest of the world why you can't mess with my family. Yeah. The entire group raised a fist into the sky as if they were displaying their resolve for the whole planet to see. A few hours later at Issei's house. As the evening light began to peer into Issei's room through the open windows, it revealed the Red Dragon Emperor busy contemplating his outfit. Issei was staring into the mirror while wearing his black jacket over his regular school attire. He made an unsatisfied face in the mirror before the jacket landed onto the ground. Perfect. Issei said, pearly white teeth shining in the mirror. He was so fixated on this that he barely even noticed Asia entering the room. Not to be rude, but is that really the most important thing you can be doing right now? Asia trying to keep the concern from leaking into her voice. Rias said that important people in the underworld would be watching the fight tonight. We have to look our best so that we don't embarrass her. Issei said as he began to run his fingers through his hair, still fixated on the mirror. If you're worried about the fight, don't be. I promise I won't let anybody hurt you. Thanks, Issei. That makes me a bit better. She still sounded like she was concerned about something. But. Issei shifted his attention to the blonde girl, curious as to why she was so worried. It's just I can't understand how this doesn't seem to faze you at all. Asia said as she took a seat on Issei's bed. Everyone is afraid. Except for you. You caught Riser-sama and his peerage off guard the other day. I don't think they're gonna underestimate you again. What if you lose? What if we all lose? I just don't understand how you can be so confident in yourself. Asia buried herself in her hands as the stress began to pile up. Huh. Issei said, lifting eyebrows up as he took a seat next to the girl. I never really thought of it as confidence. I just get so excited whenever a challenge arises, it's like every drop of blood in. My body begins to boil, every nerve begins to twitch, my hairs start to stand up on their own ends. When I use Drake's power, it's like everything else fades. When I wear that gauntlet, it's like I'm no longer the little orphan freak who doesn't have any friends. When I have that armor, I am the Red Dragon Emperor. Issei stood up from the bed and took a triumph pose. Asia's eyes twinkled as she looked on at the proud young devil. Wow. That's incredible. I guess I should have figured you'd say something like that. I mean, you're always so brave and strong and you fight with everything you have. Like when you came in to save me and when I awoke in your arms and my heart skipped a. Asia stopped herself as she realized she was talking out loud, which was causing Issei to blush a little. Yeah, well, I don't know about that. That night was kind of a fluke. Issei said, awkwardly rubbing the back of his head before he quickly gathered himself. Actually, now that I think about it, it was Drake who once told me something about self-confidence. Really? What did he say? Asia enthusiastically begged Issei, hoping for some life-changing advice. Oh, well, it's not like it's an incredible piece of poetic wisdom. Issei's words did nothing to diminish Asia's enthusiasm, and eventually he relented and told her what she wanted to know. If you can't be confident in yourself, then there is no reason for anyone else to have confidence in you. That's what he said to me. Drake has always been very important to me. He's my mentor, my partner, and one of my closest friends. So I guess I wanted him to confident in me, which could explain why I'm so confident in myself. Asia took a second to process what Issei had said as she silently nodded to herself. I think I understand. Asia began to stand and match Issei's gaze. In that case, I want Issei to have confidence in me. So that means I have to have confidence in myself. Asia raised her fist to demonstrate her newfound self-confidence, which Issei responded with a smile. The Cult Research Club. Issei and Asia entered the clubroom to find Kiba, Akeno, and Koneko sitting around the coffee table, while Rias stood alone in the middle of the room. Rias was sitting behind her desk and having a conversation with another girl who was sporting fairly short hair and glasses. She had a rather slim figure and was a bit on the shorter side. The girl was wearing glasses and a yellow hairpiece. She was accompanied by a much taller girl also sporting black hair and glasses. This other girl had much longer hair and a more curvaceous figure. Oh crap. A small bead of sweat began to roll down the side of his face after seeing this new girl. Issei then rushed over to the coffee table and took a seat in his favorite armchair. Issei sat really far back into his chair, hoping that the chair's cushions could conceal himself from sight. Alright, take care of yourself, Rias. I will providing commentary from the Student Broadcast Center. You go out there and beat that jerk. The dark-haired girl said as she turned and walked away. The black-haired girl and her companion made their way to the center of the room as a blue magic circle. Issei sat back up thinking he was out of the clear when a sharp glare appeared on the girl's face. Crap, she saw me. Issei snapped back into his chair. Good luck, Rias, and you too, Haidu. With her final goodbyes out of the way, the black-haired girl began to vanish in a bright blue light. Alright, the game is getting ready to start. Grafia finally spoke up. And I needn't remind you, but I shall anyway. Your brother Lucifer, ruler of all devils, is in attendance tonight. He's been eagerly waiting to see you and your peerage in action, so try not to disappoint him. Wait. Your brother is the… I'll explain later. Rias said quickly, shooting a glance at Issei telling him to just accept it. Alright then. Everything is in place. Grafia said as the room became illuminated by a red glow. Let the game begin. The red light completely filled the room until and when at last it faded, they had been transported to the same room. Did something go wrong? Issei was the only one who seemed confused. No, Issei. The battlefield is our schoolyard. Riser was kind enough to give us home field advantage. Rias said in her super serious tone. Enough chit-chat, now it's time for strategy. Minutes later at Riser's camp. Alright, this is the day we've been training so long for. Show them why no one can mess with Riser Phoenix. Riser's speech was met with cheers from his peerage. Rip them all to pieces, starting with that dragon prick. With Rias. Alright, everybody know their assignments. Rias addressed her peerage, receiving nods. Good. Now go out there and win. In the auditorium with Issei. Issei and Koneko were crouched over as they attempted to get across the dark room without drawing any attention to themselves. Suddenly, without notice, the auditorium lights immediately came on, revealing Issei and Koneko as they were attempting to sneak across the stage. Well. It looks like I'm the one who found the dragon boy. Rias-sama's totally gonna praise me. A brown-haired girl in a blue Chinese dress announced as she stood in triumph. Next to her were two green-haired girls who looked to be identical twins, both of them looking to be no more than 12 or 13 years old. They were also accompanied by Mira, who Issei had defeated the other day. My name is Shulin Rias-sama's row. Dragon shot. Issei interrupted the girl as he fired a massive red energy blast directly at the group while they were distracted by introductions. Rias-sama 1 bishop, 3 pawns retired. Rafia's voice announced throughout the battlefield. Issei lowered his gauntlet as he turned to Koneko. Why do you think they took the time to try and introduce themselves after they revealed where they were? Koneko answered with a quick shrug of her shoulders. Yeah, that was pretty stupid. Oh well, that's 3 pawns down. Only 5 left. Remember to take out the pawns first before they promote to queens, or else they could be trouble. Ria's words flashed across Issei's mind as he and Koneko made their way towards the sports court. Issei let out a deep sigh. Huh. But it's so boring if they're just regular pawns, this boost. As Issei rushed ahead, Koneko took a second to alert the queen. Akeno, abort the lightning. Koneko said as she pressed her finger down on her ear. Her eyes squinted a bit. Yeah, sorry. Issei got impatient and decided to take all the .fun. Koneko's eyes widened as a giant fireball came barreling, seemingly out of nowhere. It was going much too fast to dodge, so Koneko raised her arms in defense. Boom. Issei turned to find a smoldering crater where his friend used to be. The boy began to sprint towards Koneko, hoping to aid her in any way possible. Unfortunately, it was too late. Rias-sama 1 rook retired. No Koneko. Issei frantically scanned the skies, searching for whoever was responsible. The search ended once his eyes locked on a much older-looking purple-haired looking all too pleased with herself. Oh, my. Dragon boy looked so upset. The woman's taunt resulted in a furious growl from Issei. I do hope that the mighty Sekiryuite is into lolis. Too bad for you, I hear that once Rias-sama wins, he's gonna take his time breaking in all those pretty young ladies. I think I heard him mention a pretty innocent-looking blonde. He said that one would be particularly fun. The woman began to smile sultily as Issei appeared to be steaming. My name is Yubaluna, by the way, Rias-sama's queen. Yubaluna-san. The woman, whose attention was already on Issei, raised her eyebrow as Issei addressed her. The boy's bangs covered his eyes, but when he looked up to face her, they were glowing a bright green. You, and that whole peerage is dead. Boost. Issei raised his gauntlet into the air. Welsh dragon. Yubaluna began to shake, fearing what was to come next. Balance Bree. Issei. Akeno called out, now floating in front of Yubaluna. Not now. Remember Ria's plan. Remember, Issei, you must wait until fighting Riser to use balance breaker. Even if it's a significant amount, you'll need every ounce of time you have when fighting an immortal. Go to the sport field and meet up with Kiba. Akeno began to glow with magical yellow energy. Don't worry. I'll take care of this bitch. Issei gave his queen a nod and began to rush towards the sports field. On his way over there, he heard another announcement. Rias-sama 3 pawns retired. Damn Kiba. Ha, I guess all that training was worth it. As Issei continued to run towards the rendezvous point, he was grabbed by the elbow. Issei turned to find Kiba, giving him the signal to keep quiet. Meanwhile, inside the observation room, the man with long red hair, who was draped in black robes topped off with 6 overlapping black and gold shoulder pads, sat intently watching the action. Before long, an older blonde man in a black suit took a seat next to him. Well, Surziches-sama. I have to admit that your younger sister has done much better than expected against my son. However, if I'm being honest, I don't see her pulling out a win here. The blonde man stated. She's at a disadvantage when it comes to both numbers and experience. Even though there is one pretty big name in her lineup, this was a losing battle to begin with. I wouldn't count yourself victorious just yet, Lord Phoenix. Surziches responded with a smile. The fight is far from over. Oh really? Then how about a small wager? Lord Phoenix's proposition brought a small grin to the current Lucifer's face. Back on the battlefield, Issei leaned up against a wall and lowered his head shamefully. Damn it. I'm a real shitty teammate. I wasn't watching Koneko's flank, and Issei didn't finish. Issei, there is no way you can blame yourself for what happened to Koneko. Kiba said, trying to get Issei out of his funk. There are casualties in every war. What we need to do is make sure there aren't any others. Issei slowly backed away from the wall. He gave a quick nod to Kiba, his head still drooping a bit. Kiba's right. Issei, keep your head in the game. Ria's voice rang through the earpieces of the two boys. You two need keep the remainder of Riser's peerage here while Koneko deals with the queen. Asia and I will make an assault on Riser himself. No, you can't. Issei yelled into the earpiece. Issei, calm down. We're gonna be just fine. I can handle that bird-brained jerk. Rias said confidently. I know that. Issei yelled again. But this is why I'm here. The chance to battle an immortal. This is my fight. Rias chuckled a bit into the earpiece. Well, if that's the case, then wipe out Riser's peerage as fast as you can so you can join us. Still no balance breaker though. Issei nodded as he and Kiba made their way towards the sports complex. Welcome, servants of Gremory. A tall girl wearing a armored dress and 2 headbands stood at the opposite end of one of the various courts located in the area. She had a sword sheathed on her hip until she drew it and pointed it toward the 2 boys. I am Carloman, Knight of Riser Sama. What's with the deal with all the introductions? Issei said with a sigh. His gauntlet summoned itself to Issei's arm as he took a battle stance. Oh well, I'll take you on all the same. No. Kiba threw out his arm in front of Issei. I've always wanted to fight a fellow knight. This is one's mine. Kiba rushed forward using his incredible speed as Riser's knight did the same. The 2 of them made a loud clang as their swords met each other. Damn. Issei pouted as he kicked a small pebble on the battlefield. I wanted to fight her. Worry not, Red Dragon Emperor. A familiar voice called out from the other side of the court. Issei looked over to reveal Ravel. If it's a fight you want, then this is your lucky day. Isabella. A brown-haired girl with maroon highlights came rushing out of the bushes. Half of her face was covered by a white mask, she was wearing a ripped black leather jacket and a pair of ripped blue jeans. Isabella began to charge Issei with her shoulders down. Issei leaped up into the air, effortlessly hurdling the girl. How's it going, princess? Issei said smugly, almost as if he was taunting her. Honestly, I'm surprised to see you here. I mean, your brother almost let me turn you into fried chicken because of his pride. Hey. You don't have to be rude about it, Ravel said, offended at his fried chicken comment. You're right, he's a jerk. But I have my own stake in this game. Flashback. No way. Ravel said as she walked away from an angry Riser. After what you almost did to me, there's no way I'd ever help you. I'm gonna go tell mom to trade me, I'm done with you, bro. In fact, I hope Issei-san kicks your stupid dot. Wait, Ravel, I need you. Riser held out his hand to Ravel, who was before a mischievous idea formed in the devil's head, causing him to grin. You know, if I win, then Ria's peerage becomes mine. If you help me in this battle, then I can give you Dragon Boy if you want. Ravel stopped dead in her tracks. You'll be able to make him do whatever you want or do whatever you want to him. Then flashback. Ravel began to blush profusely. When my brother wins, you will become mine. Even though she was clearly flustered, she kept her demanding tone. You'll spend all your time with me. You'll take me shopping, we'll go on walks in the garden, you'll be my date to every formal event my family chooses to attend, and all my friends who used to brag about having boyfriends will all be so jealous. Essentially, you'll be my plaything forever. Oh, so that's what she wants. Issei took a deep gulp as he threw Isabella into a bush. Issei began to slowly walk towards the blonde girl. You can do this, Issei, you can do this. It's for the team. Stay away from Ravel-sama. Isabella came rushing back out of the bushes, but Issei fired a quick dragon shot which sent her straight back into the same bush. Ravel Phoenix. Issei called out in a serious voice, causing the blonde girl to close her eyes and tremble and free. So. Issei continued in a much more timid voice, causing Ravel to open her eyes. What she saw was a bit unexpected. Issei stood a little over a meter away while looking up away from Ravel, with a bright red blush under his eyes. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this, but I'm gonna give it my best shot. Ravel Phoenix, if you retire from this raiding game, I promise that I will take you out for an afternoon. We can go see a movie and do some shopping, if you want to, that is. A huge blush exploded across the already flustered Ravel's face as she attempted to find her words. And no. Ravel said, which came as a shock to Issei, but luckily for him the bishop wasn't finished. I will retire and you will take me shopping, we'll go see a movie and go eat somewhere really nice. Also, it won't just be for an afternoon, it's gonna be a whole day. Ravel met Issei's eyes dead on as she listed her demands. Understood. Issei said with a genuine smile on his face. I retire. Ravel announced, sounding completely giddy as she began to fade into a bright light. Riser Sama 1 Bishop retired. Issei shook his head, clearing the blush from his face. That was embarrassing, but it did buy some time. I wonder if Rias and Asia have made it to wherever Riser is. Issei looked around in the night sky until his head stopped and his eyes widened in shock. Oh god. With Rias and Koneko. Riser laughed as he floated between Rias and Asia, his bright flaming wings on full display. I must admit, Rias, you've lasted much longer than I would have guessed. However, I wonder how much of that is due to the aid of your pretty little healer here. He directs his attention to Asia. Twilight healing. What an incredible power, which is exactly you can no longer be allowed to compete in this game. Riser held up a fireball that had to have at least a meter in diameter up over his head. He released it towards the Gremory Bishop and it began to hurtle towards Asia at incredible speeds. No. Rias held out her hand towards her servant, hopeless to do anything to stop the giant flaming ball. Boom. A huge explosion consumed the former nun. Rias Sama 1 Bishop retired. With Issei. No. Asia. Issei screamed as he looked on in horror as his dear friend vanished from the battlefield. Then a sharp pain suddenly formed in Issei's stomach and the boy began to fly backwards until he was at last stopped when he hit the land. Isabella had delivered a sharp sucker punch to Issei's abdomen, which sent him crashing. Issei was now hunched over and began to puke the blood from his damaged organs all over the field. So this is the mighty dragon of domination. Without his fancy armor it turns out he's soft and fragile. Nothing but words. The Rook taunted. I'm not in the ing mood. Issei said with a growl, still hunched over. This caused the woman to raise her eye at the boy she assumed she had defeated. Promotion night. Isabella's eyes widened as Issei disappeared from sight in a quick burst of speed. The boy appeared directly in front of the girl, giving her a quick glance at his brightly glowing green eyes, filled completely with rage. The next thing she knows a giant red fist was completely clobbering her face, breaking her nose and knocking her back a few feet. Isabel regained her footing as she landed, but she was too slow to react. Issei used his increased speed to run behind her and deliver a powerful kick directly to her lower back. The pain mixed with the shock caused her to spit up some saliva and sent her to her knees. Issei relentlessly charged another dragon shot and fired it directly at the immobilized opponent. Riser Sama 1 Rook retired. Billy is next. Issei shouted into the night sky, daring anyone to mess with him. At their own risk. Riser Sama 1 Knight retired. Biba rushed in to rejoin Issei and hopefully calm him down. Issei, the foot soldiers are dropping like flies. We're almost finished here, then we can go join Rias and help her with the fight against Riser. HMPH. A black-haired girl in a purple kimono emerged from the bushes. I would be so sure just yet Knight of Gremory. Just as the girl said that another boom occurred, this time coming from where Koneko and Yubaluna had been fighting. Issei and Kiba both shifted their attentions to the origin of the sound. After the smoke cleared Koneko's seemingly lifeless body began to glow light blue before fading out of sight as she fell to the earth below. Yubaluna stood victorious of Issei's fallen comrade with a face that seemed to be glowing with ecstasy. The little girl should know better than to pick a fight with a real woman. The rival queen said as she held her fingers sensually close to her mouth. Koneko. Kiba cried out for his friend before turning to Issei. Issei's face was shrouded by his bangs, so Kiba couldn't see his face, but his aura told the whole story. The Sekiryuite was pissed. Issei? Kiba asked out of concern for his friend. This? Issei shouted. Kiba quickly dropped to the floor knowing what was coming. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. Issei exploded with a violent red aura as his armor appeared. Issei looked around to all the members of Riser's Peerage that were still surrounding him and Kiba. We can't give up yet, ladies. One of the Peerage members announced, trying to pick up the recently retired Ravel's slack. Charge. Issei paid the girls no mind and turned to Kiba. Get out of here now. Kiba didn't argue and dashed away using his incredible speed. Issei turned back to the girls who were now charging him and held up his left arm. Boost. 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 Even after the warning Issei gave the girls, they still refused to back down. He would have most likely commended them if he wasn't completely furious. Explosion. A wave of destructive red energy spewed out from every inch of Issei's armored body, in all directions. The energy overwhelmed it to the point of retiring every single one of them. Lord Riser. 4 pawns, 1 knight, 1 bishop, 2 rooks retired. On top the orc building. The battle between Rias and Riser was interrupted by Graphia's announcement. What? How is this possible? After the brutal training I put them through, they were all eliminated at once. Riser looked down to the tennis court where the battle had been taking place to find Issei coated in his glowing balance breaker, standing alone in the open field. Damn it. Looks like I have to end this sooner than planned. Riser said, turning back to Rias, ready to resume the battle. Back with Issei. Issei spread his wings from his back, erupted into the night sky. Jet. Issei used his increased speed to vanish from sight before reappearing in front of Yubaluna, causing her to jump a bit. Well. You're not too happy about the way I handled that bitch, are you, dragon boy? The woman was still filled with confidence despite Issei's overwhelming aura. Color me impressed. I never would have guessed a prude like that could get a man to care so much about her well-being. I guess it's too bad she was so. MMMHMMHHMM. Issei had enough of the arrogant queen's chatter, so he put his left claw around her face, rather tightly shutting her up. Then he brought his left arm up to the girl's waist, and a red ball of energy formed in front of his fist. Yubaluna's eyes widened, recognized the attack from earlier, but Issei didn't hesitate. Dragon shot. Lord Riser won, queen retired. But Rias and Riser. Damn it. They're all useless. Riser cursed his peerage as he held a large ball of flames in his right arm over Rias, who was now on her back atop the roof. No matter. With this attack it's all over. Checkmate. Riser gloated before he began to laugh maniacally. Once he calmed down he resumed his evil monologue. All this fighting has got me rather impatient, I don't think I can wait anymore. I think I'll take you tonight. Ha 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 ha. Rias looked up at the deranged king with disgusted eyes, but couldn't help but think it was hopeless. Oh, and don't worry about Dragon Boy. Riser resumed his spiel. I already promised Ravel I'd give him to her as a plaything, she seems rather fond of him, so he shouldn't be jealous long. Oh wait. He never gave a shit about you in the first place. A twisted grin formed across Riser's face. I think I'll film Ravel taking the boy for herself and we can watch it on our honeymoon. Ria's hopeless expression shifted into one of pure joy. Really, that's what you're into? Riser said with an eyebrow raised, an eyebrow at the smiling girl. Well, it took you long enough. Ria said with a sniffle as tears ran down her face. Riser's eyes had widened as he realized he wasn't the one the retard was talking to. He attempted to turn around, but it was too late. Crunch. That was the sound of Riser's right arm shattering in a draconic vice grip. Ai. Riser screamed out in pain, but Issei wasn't finished as he lifted the pure-blooded devil up over his head before slamming him back down through the roof and a few floors into the orc. Issei jumped down into the hole he had created in pursuit of Phoenix. Rias waited awkwardly by herself until another crash. Riser flew through one of the orc's walls and into a tree. Followed slowly by an enraged Issei. Asia, Koneko, Akeno. Issei listed off his fallen comrades. You bastard. That's not a fight. You prey on the weak who can't measure up as they are. It's not a fight, it's a joke. Issei berated the devil for his tactics. You impudent boy. That's called winning. I'm sorry if it doesn't live up to your moral code, but that's how it's done. Riser retaliated. That's it. Issei snapped back. Riser. I warned you what would happen if you disappointed me again. Issei's eyes sharpened into a deathly glare. There won't be a third. Riser was initially shaken by Issei's threat, but regained his composure and raised his aura to match the boy's intensity. Ha, you talk big, and you may have caught me off guard with the first two attacks, but now I've seen the extent of your power, and I'm unimpressed. Issei spread his elongated flaming wings. Your power is admirable, dragon, but it's still dwarfed by mine. For I am Lord Riser Phoenix, master of wind and fire, and Ria's Gremory will be mine. Back in the observation room. Well, Sirziches, what was that you were saying about the Red Dragon Emperor being the ace in the hole? The golden-haired head of the Phoenix clan began to gloat. Riser's power is significantly higher than the boy's now. Looks like the bet is as good as mine. I wouldn't count Issei Kun out quite yet. Sirziches said with his fingers interlocked in a thinking position before turning to his friend and smiling. Plus, aren't you forgetting something pretty important about the pawn? Back on the battlefield. Promotion queen. Issei announced as the image of a red queen piece flashed in the background before Issei's aura and power grew exponentially. The screen appeared to split to show the reactions of both Riser and Lord Phoenix. Both of men's eyes widened at Issei's new power, and they simultaneously said, "Oh crap." Issei resumed the fight by quickly closing the distance between him and the king before delivering a powerful punch to the man's gut, causing his mouth to spew blood. Before Riser could react, Issei grabbed him by the leg and threw him to the side. Riser's body made contact with ground a few times before finally crashing into a fence, putting an end to his momentum. Riser rubbed his back with a pained expression on his face before his eyes opened wide with shock. Riser quickly maneuvered out of the way as a red energy sphere hit directly on target to where he had been sitting. Riser growled in frustration before taking action. This isn't over yet. Not by a long shot. Riser yelled as he summoned a two-handed fireball and hurled it at Issei. Issei didn't react fast enough and took the full force of the attack, which caused an explosion, knocking Issei to the ground. Issei erupted from the plume of dust and smoke with his wings spread wide. For a split second, his smoke-cloaked silhouette perfectly resembled a dragon. Boost. Issei flew directly for Riser, dodging a few fireballs along the way. He fired a powerful fist aimed directly at Riser's face. But Riser was able to dodge as he could clearly see the attack coming literally a mile away. Riser used the opening to ignite a condensed ball of flames near Issei's abdomen, blasting him back a few meters. Hahaha. When it comes to speed and power, I'll admit you outmatch me, but your technique could use work. Riser bragged. I've been in hundreds of fights, my experience puts me at an advantage. Riser spoke too soon because while he was gloating Issei closed the distance and quickly delivered an uppercut to Riser's face knocking him into the air. Issei then wrapped his tail around Riser in midair before slamming him back into the ground. Wrong, your arrogance puts you at a disadvantage. That's why I will win. Issei said as he stood above Riser. Issei picked Riser up by the shirt and dispelled his helmet to look him dead in the eyes. I have to win. For her. Rias, who had made her way down from the top of the old schoolhouse at that time, was stopped dead in her tracks. Boost. She's smart. Issei yelled delivering a punch to Riser's chin, knocking him into the air. Issei re-summoned his helmet and took off into after him. Issei caught up with him in midair and knocked the devil back to earth with a two-handed hammer arm. She's funny. Issei dropped back down and delivered a roundhouse kick to the Riser as he fell. She's generous. Issei continued to beat the immortal demon with a flurry of punches and kicks. She's friendly, boost. And sweet, boost. And patient, boost. And charismatic, boost. And an amazing friend. Issei finally knocked a bloodied and beaten Riser to the ground in the middle of an open area in the battlefield. Issei stared down at his clenched fist. And she's so very kind, and you only want her for her body and family name. Boost. That's why I'll never let scum like you take her from me. Rias, who was looking on wide-eyed as she held her fist close to her heart. Goddamn it, Issei. When you say stuff like that, what's a girl supposed to do? Surrender now, Riser. There is no way you can defeat me. Issei as he looked down at the crippled and deformed devil. Ahahahaha. Riser began to laugh as he stood up. His bones began to pin themselves back into place and his face reshaped itself. I will give you credit, your power is incredible and your devotion to your master is admirable. But I am Riser Phoenix, my healing ability is unstoppable. Your master is mine, there was no changing this fact from the moment you entered the arena, I had already won. My power is limitless, but yours can only last so long, and if I remember correctly each of your boosts shortened your time limit. Give up. None of your attacks have the raw power it takes to defeat me, it's futile. Ha. Issei lowered his head and his armor dissipated. I'm sorry. Issei said quietly, head still lowered. Ahaha. So at last you see the truth, but you needn't apologize to your master. She should have known coming into this fight there was no way she would win. Riser said smugly as he took a proud stance. Rias couldn't believe her eyes. She had him on the ropes and Issei said all those things. Was this really the limit of his resolve? He was giving up, why now? No. I don't accept your apology. You can't give up, he can't even touch you and you're ready to give up. Why? Because his words intimidate you. That Issei cause you can't give up now, please keep fighting. Rias pleaded with her pawn as tears began to stream from her face. Issei put his hand on the girl's face and attempted to wipe away her tears. Rias, I'm not apologizing to you. Issei smiled at her and the tears stopped. I would never give up on you. I was apologizing to him, he pointed his thumb backwards towards Riser, causing the high-class devil to raise an eyebrow in confusion. Issei placed a hand of each Ria's shoulders as he began to explain himself, listen to me, okay? I'm about to do something pretty scary and probably super dangerous, but I need you to trust me, okay? Rias gave Issei a slow nod as she wondered what her pawn was planning. Good, now you probably want to stand back. Things are about to get pretty hectic. Issei turned to face Riser as Rias quickly scampered away. The boy held his boosted gear up to his chest, the large green gem atop his hand began to glow a dark menacing red. Like I said, Riser-sama. I concede this fight, you are victorious. Your regenerative abilities match up too well against mine in a fair fight. Unfortunately for you, this was anything but a fair fight. I promised my master I wouldn't let you marry her, even if I had to unleash hell itself in order to win, which is exactly what I intend to do. A massive red aura exploded around Issei, who was still in his base form. Hear me, Riser Phoenix. Issei spoke in a calm yet sad tone. Throughout the millennia, the gods themselves have always trembled at the very mention of the forbidden technique I intend to demonstrate you. Be proud that your demise will be met by the hands of the mighty Juggernaut Drive. Issei clad himself in his armor and the transformation began. Flashback. We will give you one shot. Belzard told Issei during Issei's training with the boosted gear. No being in the world is capable of controlling Juggernaut Drive, but because of the exceptional compatibility you share with Drake, we are giving you one chance. If you can summon its power with the magic you currently possess, we will not try to lead you into insanity. However, this will only be allowed once. If you summon the forbidden power again, it will consume you. End of flashback. I, who am about to awaken. Issei's back began to grow in size, and gigantic wings sprouted from his shoulder blades. No. It's not real, this power is just a legend. Riser began to panic. You fool. You'll kill us all. It's just a game. Stop this already. Riser's pleas fell on deaf ears as Issei continued to chant. am the heavenly dragon who has stolen the principles of domination from God. No, this can't be happening, he's actually gonna kill me. Riser's mind was racing a million miles a second before he finally decided to plead for help. Grafia-san. Please, there must be a rule that forbids this. A power like this is far too dangerous for a game. Riser shouted into the sky, hoping that the official would be able to help him. Unfortunately, it was too late. There is no rule in place that prohibits this. Issei is this generation's Red Dragon Emperor, and as such Juggernaut Drive is a tool at his disposal. At this point I recommend you retire yourself. The system of can only handle so much power, an attack could prove fatal. Grafia responded in a near emotionless and purely factual tone. Riser stumbled backwards, almost paralyzed in fear. He lost his footing and was sent tumbling onto his own behind. At closer inspection of the crotch area on Riser's pants, a dark patternless blotch had formed on his maroon slacks. I laugh at the infinite and I grieve at the dream. Issei's hand had become more claw-like and bestial as he continued to grow, both in size and in power. In the observation room. Surziches. You need to end the fight right now, it's much too dangerous. Your sister is down there. Beelzebub, who was renowned for his intelligence, attempted to talk Surziches into cancelling the game, and Grafia, who agreed with him, reached for the intercom on. Wait. Surziches said, raising his hand to gather all the attention. You all heard my wife, this is perfectly acceptable. I trust my sister and her peerage. Especially that boy, he knows what he's doing. He had the power sealed for a reason, remember. The whole crowd quieted down and focused their attention back on the game. In the arena. Issei's feet had grown immensely, and his tail had become longer and more whip-like. Finally Issei's helmet split open, revealing a much more draconic maul underneath. I shall become the Red Dragon of I shall sink you to the depths of the Crimson Purgatory. Juggernaut Drive. Riser was terrified. He simply sat on the ground motionless until his fight-or-flight instinct kicked in as he jumped into the air and spread his wings, but it was too late. Issei quickly snatched up the devil in one of his monster's hands, before joining it with the second one, making sure there was no escape. Issei's grip was so tight Riser could barely speak, much less move. The no longer proud king was forced to watch as the monster brought him mere meters from its gaping jaw. Originally Riser thought he was going to be eaten, but the beast had other plans, as ominous red glow began to form near the back of the dragon's throat. I can feel it. The power of that attack. The game can't save me, I'm going to die. Riser thought to himself, tears beginning to form in his eyes. My brothers, I'll never see them again. And my parents, I was such a spoiled child to them for so long. I always thought I'd get the chance to make things right, but now that will never happen. My beloved peerage, I was so cruel to them and all they ever did was love me with all their hearts. It's not fair, I want to make things right with all the people I've wronged, I want to be a good person, I don't want to die. Riser's mind was racing a mile a second, and he was at last overcome by fear to the point where his pride no longer mattered. I retire. Riser faded away into a blue light and Grafia came back onto the intercom. Riser-sama has retired. The winner is Rias Gremory. I did it. I actually did it. I won. I'm free, I'm finally free. Rias began to tear up, she couldn't believe it. After years of dread it was over and she had won. Issei, thank you. I love. Wait. Issei is still a giant dragon monster. Rias looked up at the towering monstrous dragon whose aura was still radiating and whose massive tail was still wiping about and knocking over trees. Tiba ran up behind Rias with a smile on his face. Hey, what did I miss? Rias didn't respond, instead she took a step closer towards the beast. Issei. The beast turned around as he took notice of the girl. I know you told me not to worry and to trust you. I'm sorry I broke that promise. I do trust you, but I am worried. It's time to change back, the fight is over. The beast lifted its head towards the sky. Ryo. A gigantic roar erupted from the monster, causing both Rias and Kiba to take cover. But then the roaring suddenly stopped. Rias and Kiba eventually looked up to find the dragon completely frozen. Suddenly a beam of red light erupted from its chest. Rapidly more and more light beams shot out from the monster until a giant red flash erupted, filling the entire arena. Once the light dissipated it revealed Issei floating in midair until he wasn't floating anymore. Why? Issei crashed down into the earth and Rias and Kiba rushed over to meet him. Issei, you did it. A delighted Rias jumped onto Issei, who had just returned to his feet, knocking him back to the ground. That was incredible and kinda scary. Actually drop the incredible part, don't ever do that again. Rias demanded, sitting on top of the boy. Yeah, I know. Issei agreed, looking kinda disappointed. I don't even think I can do it again, but I'll tell you one thing. That power felt incredible. Issei's expression brightened as he remembered the feeling of wielding the Juggernaut Drive. Even if it was for just a short time, I've never felt anything like it. Issei. Rias shot him the drop at glare, and the boy complied. Anyway, for all your hard work and sacrifice, I've decided to give you a reward. Oh, I don't need an award. Issei said as he tried to sit up, but Rias put pressure down on his chest. Geez, just close your eyes already. Issei complied with Rias pouting and firmly shut his eyes. Rias used the opportunity to bring herself closer to Issei's face. Rias brushed her hair to the side and closed her eyes as she began to pucker her dot. Ria-tan. Rias immediately opened her eyes and sat up. Surziches began to run towards Rias with a bright smile on his face, accompanied by Lord Phoenix, who was dressed in a maid outfit. Rias stood up to greet her brother, who enveloped her in a big hug. You did it. Your peerage won. I'm so proud of you. My little Ria-tan won her first rating game, they grow up so fast. As the red-haired Devil King was congratulating his sister, Issei stood up and began to dust himself off. Issei Haidu. The blonde man in the maid's outfit addressed a pawn, causing Issei to awkwardly sweat a bit. Young man, that was spectacular. Your devotion to your master and the power you demonstrated have gotten me excited for the young generation of devils on the horizon. Even though my son has been defeated, I feel like this will be good for his development. It should help him grow into a much more humble and level-headed king, so I thank you. So the bird brain's dad likes to dress up like a girl. I guess that makes sense. Issei thought to himself before answering. Thank you, sir. I hope that I didn't end up going too far. I honestly never meant to use Juggernaut Drive, but my frustration got the better of me. Your son is incredibly gifted and he is the true winner of our fight. The two men exchange a friendly handshake. Issei Nai. The red-haired devil ran over and tackled the boy back to the ground. Issei Nai. Issei was confused. Nice to meet you. My name is Issei Haidu. Oh, forgive me. Where are my manners? The red-haired man said politely as he continued to straddle the Issei. I am Surzich's Lucifer. Ria's brother and ruler of all devils. Nice to meet you. Wait. Ruler of all devils. Lucifer. Issei evaluated the given information in his head before coming to a profound realization. You're Satan. Yes, but enough about me. That was incredible. Surziches went right to praising. You were able to control Juggernaut Drive. You turned it on and off like it was nothing, and you didn't use any of your life force. That's incredible. No. I didn't control it. Issei admitted. Juggernaut Drive is uncontrollable by nature. If you can control it, then it's not the Juggernaut Drive is what I'm trying to say. I simply set a time limit on my transformation. Issei's explanation didn't convince the audience, so he went into more detail. After I promoted to queen, I began to boost myself during the fight. Those boosts didn't go to my fighting strength, instead they went to boosting the reserves of demonic power I had. Then when it was time to use Juggernaut Drive, I used that demonic energy as a power source, as opposed to my own life force. As a result, the drive only had enough fuel to sustain itself for around 8 seconds before it powered down. If it wasn't for my own lack of demonic power, I would have probably gone on a rampage. So basically you gambled that Riser would be so frightened that he would retire himself within 8 seconds of your transformation. Lord Phoenix said as he put his hand under his chin. Issei gave the man a quick nod. Yeah. That's what I hoped would have happened. If he didn't retire, then he would have probably been vaporized. Issei said rather logically. Now if you'll excuse me. I think I'm gonna pass out now. As he finished saying that, his knees gave out on him and he dropped to the ground completely unconscious. Sometime later. Issei's eyes began to blink open when he realized he was back in his own bed in his house. Whoa. When did this happen and why is my blanket so heavy? He lifted up the top blanket to see the top of a red-haired person's head. You're not my blanket. Issei said quietly, but not quietly enough as the red-haired person began to stir. Then the red-haired figure lifted her head up to reveal Rias. Thank God. For a second I thought it might be her brother. Rias began to rub her eyes and rolled over so that her chest was laying atop Issei's. That's when he realized. She's completely. Well, look who's finally awake. Rias said as she began to rub the sleep out of her eyes. Did you enjoy your 30-hour nap? 30 hours? Issei yelled while Rias was directly in front of him, causing her to rub her ears. Oh sorry. He whispered. Hey Ice. Rias said as she slowly wrapped her arms around the boy's torso, causing her breast to press more and more on Issei's chest. A red blush sprawled across the girl's face. I'm gonna give you your reward now. I've never done this before, so I'm sorry if it's not very good. Rias began to lean in closer to Issei, who couldn't move because of how Rias had bound him with her arms. Rias brought her face directly towards Issei and began to close her eyes as she slowly began to press her against the Issei's. While the two were entwined in a passionate kiss. Neither of them noticed Issei's door slowly open. Issei. Are you awake yet? Asia began to enter the doorway carrying a tray with a cup of green tea when she stopped dead in her tracks. Her eyes began to widen as she observed the scene in front of her. The high-pitched scream caused Rias to break away from the kiss and the two of them focused on Asia, who seemed to be boiling in anger. What's going on? Rias let out a small yawn as she turned back to Issei. Well, I'm going back to bed. Night ice. Rias nuzzled her head into Issei's chest and began to snore softly. Wait. Rias, don't. Issei begged, but it was too late. Rias had already drifted off to sleep, leaving Issei to defuse the situation. An angry Asia walked over to the side of the bed and began to glare angrily at the boy. You better explain yourself this instant. Issei was at a loss for words. He looked back and forth across the room, hoping an answer of some form would appear to no avail. Well, you see, Asia. Drake, help me. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the JCT1345 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.